They laughed when she was dragged into the circle. They cheered when he said the words that would destroy her. But 6 months later, when she walked back through those gates, nobody was laughing anymore. This is the story of Serena Vale, the wolf they thrown away, the mate they rejected, and the queen they created by mistake. If you want to see how a broken girl becomes the storm that buries an entire pack, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I know you're watching. Let's begin. The rejection ceremony always happened at sunset. Serena had known that much since she was a child, watching from the edges of the gathering grounds as other wolves went through the ritual. Sometimes it was mutual, two mates realizing they weren't meant to be, splitting peacefully under the elder's blessing. Sometimes it was quiet, a whispered severance behind closed doors, handled with dignity and respect. But this was a spectacle. The entire crown pack had assembled. 300 wolves in human form circling the stone platform at the heart of their territory like vultures waiting for the kill. Torches burned against the dimming sky, their flames dancing in the wind that swept down from the northern mountains. The air smelled of pine smoke and anticipation, thick enough to choke on. Serena could taste it on her tongue, the collective hunger for drama, for blood, for someone to fall so the rest could feel elevated. She stood in the center of it all, wrists bound with silver cord that burned against her skin. The metal suppressed her wolf, kept her from shifting, from running, from doing anything but standing there and taking it. The pain was constant, a low, searing ache that spread up her forearms and made her fingers tremble. Blisters had already formed where the silver touched bare skin. By tomorrow they'd scar, if she lived that long. Darius' crown stood across from her 10 feet away, but it might as well have been a universe. Alpha air, golden-eyed, broad-shouldered, perfect by every standard their world recognized. 6'3" of pure muscle and breeding, with the kind of face that made unmated females stumble over their own feet. He looked like something carved from marble in arrogance, his jaw set, his expression utterly blank. As if she were nothing, less than nothing. A stranger. She had loved him once, thought the mate bond meant something sacred, something unbreakable. She'd believed in it with the desperate faith of someone who'd never had much else to believe in. Stupid girl. Serena Vale! Elder Rowan's voice cut through the murmurs like a blade through silk. The old wolf stood to the side of the platform, robed in ceremonial gray that made him look like a specter in the fading light. His face was grave, but his eyes were empty of sympathy. He'd presided over dozens of these ceremonies in his 70 years. This was just another obligation to him. Another line item in the pack's endless bureaucracy. You stand accused of insufficient strength, inadequate lineage, and failure to meet the standards required of an alpha's mate. Darius Crown, heir to this pack and the Crown bloodline, has invoked his right to rejection under the old laws. Do you have anything to say before the bond is severed? Serena's throat was dry as sand. She wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to beg him to reconsider, to remember the promises they'd made under the full moon 2 years ago when the bond had first snapped into place. She wanted to remind him of lazy Sunday mornings tangled in sheets, of whispered plans for their future, of the way he used to look at her like she hung the stars. But pride, stupid, stubborn pride that her father had always said would be her downfall, kept her spine straight. No, she said quietly. The word barely carried over the restless crowd. A ripple of whispers spread through the assembly like wind through wheat. Someone laughed. The sound was sharp and cruel, quickly echoed by others. The pack smelled blood in the water. Darius's lip curled. Not quite a smile. More like disgust, the expression someone might make when they found rotting meat. Good, he said, his voice carrying easily across the gathering grounds. He'd always had a voice built for command, deep and resonant. Because I'm done pretending this was ever going to work. More laughter, louder this time, emboldened. Serena's chest tightened. The mate bond hummed beneath her ribs, that invisible thread that had tied her to him since they were 18. It had felt like destiny back then, like the moon herself had chosen them for each other, had looked down and decided they were meant to be. She'd believed in it with everything she had, rearranged her entire life around it. Now it just felt like a noose tightening around her neck with every passing second. Darius stepped closer, his boots thudding against the ancient stone. Close enough that she could smell the cedar and smoke scent of him. the one that used to make her wolf purr with contentment, that used to mean safety and home and love. Now it made her stomach turn, made bile rise in her throat. His golden eyes met hers for just a second. She searched desperately for any hint of the man she'd known, any flicker of regret or hesitation. Nothing, just cold calculation. I, Darius Crown, son of Alpha Marcus Crown and heir to the Crown Pack, do formally and irrevocably reject you, Serena Vale, as my mate and my equal before the moon and this assembled pack. The words hit like a physical blow, each one landing with brutal precision. The bond snapped. Serena gasped, doubling over as pain tore through her chest. It felt like something vital had been ripped out by the roots, leaving a raw, bleeding hole where it used to be. Her wolf howled inside her mind, confused and broken, clawing desperately at the emptiness where Darius used to be. The agony was indescribable, worse than any physical wound she'd ever taken. It radiated outward from her heart in waves, making her vision blur and her knees buckle. The crowd erupted. Cheers. Applause. Someone whistled like they were at a sporting event, high and piercing. Finally! About damn time he got rid of the dead weight. She never belonged here anyway. I said it from the start. I heard her mother was an Omega. Weak blood. It always shows eventually. My daughter's twice the wolf she is. Maybe Darius will notice her now. The voices blended together into a wall of sound, each comment another knife in her back. Serena's knees hit the stone platform hard enough to bruise. Her vision swam. The silver cuffs bit deeper into her wrists as she tried to catch her breath, tried to hold herself together while everything inside her shattered into jagged pieces. She could taste blood, had bitten through her lip without realizing it. Darius looked down at her, his handsome face impassive. No sympathy, no regret. Not even anger or satisfaction, just cold, clinical assessment, like he was looking at a failed experiment. You were always weak, Serena, he said, and his voice carried across the entire gathering grounds. He was performing now, making sure every wolf present would remember this moment, would repeat his words in the coming days. I thought maybe you'd grow into it, thought the mate bond might make you stronger, might bring out something worthwhile. My father said to give it time, that mates sometimes brought out hidden potential. He paused, letting that sink in, letting everyone absorb the implication that even the alpha had harbored doubts. But you're still the same pathetic little wolf you were when we met. Timid, fragile, useless in a fight. You couldn't even pass the intermediate combat trials after 3 attempts. You flinch when anyone raises their voice. You cry when we have to make hard decisions. His lip curled again. And I refuse to let you drag me down when I take the alpha position. This pack deserves better. I deserve better. Someone in the crowd shouted their agreement. Others joined in like a chorus. The crown line deserves strength. She couldn't even track a deer properly last week. My daughter passed those trials on her first try. At 16, like Omega blood. I'm telling you, it's the Omega blood. Serena wanted to argue, wanted to scream that she'd stood watch on their borders in the freezing rain, that she'd helped tend their wounded after the rogue attack last spring, that she'd given everything she had to this pack since she was old enough to walk. She'd made herself small and quiet and accommodating, always trying to be good enough, always hoping that if she just tried harder, they'd accept her. But the words wouldn't come. Her throat had closed up entirely, choked with pain and humiliation. This pack deserves better, Darius continued, turning fully to address the crowd now, playing to them like a practiced performer. His voice rose, taking on the cadence of a speech he'd probably rehearsed. We are crown wolves, predators, warriors. We've held this territory for 6 generations because we're strong, because we don't accept weakness in our ranks, because we've always understood that the pack is only as strong as its weakest link, and we sure as hell don't let weakness infect our bloodline, our future. The crowd roared approval. The sound was deafening, washing over her in waves. Serena stayed on her knees, shaking, her bound hands pressed against the cold stone beneath her. She could feel every eye on her, every sneer, every moment of vindication from wolves who'd always thought she didn't belong, who'd whispered behind their hands that Darius had made a mistake. They'd been proven right. Elder Rowan stepped forward again, raising one gnarled hand for silence. The crowd settled, though the energy still crackled in the air like electricity before a storm. The rejection is complete and witnessed, he announced in his formal, ceremonial voice. Serena Vale, you are no longer bound to this pack's heir. The mate bond has been legally and spiritually severed. However, he paused, glancing toward the edge of the platform where Alpha Marcus Crown stood with his arms crossed and his face carved from stone. The council has decided that your continued presence here poses a risk to pack unity and morale. Serena's head snapped up, ignoring the way the movement made her vision swim. What? You will be exiled, Rowan said flatly, as if he were discussing the weather. Effective immediately. You have until dawn to leave Crown territory. The world tilted sideways. For a moment, Serena thought she might actually faint. Exiled? Her voice came out as a broken rasp. For what? I didn't do anything wrong. I've never broken pack law. I've been loyal. You existed, Darius cut in, his tone sharp as broken glass. And your existence has become a problem. That's enough. Alpha Marcus finally spoke, his voice like gravel grinding together. He was a massive man, even in human form, standing at least 6'5" with shoulders that seemed to span doorways. Silver streaked through his dark hair and scars crossed his face from a lifetime of battles and challenges. When he spoke, people listened. They had no choice. The rejection has created division in the pack, he said, each word deliberate and heavy. Some wolves believe you were treated unfairly. Others question my son's judgment and timing. There are whispers, arguments. I've had 3 different families come to me with concerns. This cannot stand. We cannot have our pack split over something so... He waved a hand dismissively, as if her entire existence was nothing. Trivial. You will leave Crown territory by dawn. You will not return. If you cross our borders again for any reason, you will be killed as a rogue. No trial, no mercy, no exceptions. Do you understand? Serena stared at him, at all of them. These were the wolves she'd grown up with, trained with, bled beside during border skirmishes with the Northern Pack and when rogues had attacked 3 years ago. She'd celebrated their victories, mourned their losses, treated them like the family she'd never really had. Her father had died when she was 15, leaving her alone except for the pack, and they were throwing her away like garbage that had started to smell. Please, she whispered, the words scraping out of her throat. She hated herself for begging, but couldn't stop it from coming. I have nowhere else to go. No other pack will take an exiled wolf. You know that. I'll die out there. Not my problem, Darius said coldly. His golden eyes were flat, emotionless. You should have thought about that before you turned out to be so disappointing. The casual cruelty of it took her breath away. He turned his back on her and walked off the platform, his stride confident and unhurried. The message was clear. She was already gone, already erased from his life. The crowd began to disperse, the entertainment over, just like that, as if she'd already stopped existing. Some wolves shot her pitying looks as they left, their expressions saying better you than me. Most didn't bother to look at all. A few actually smiled, pleased to see her brought low. Serena heard snippets of conversation as they walked away, voices carrying in the evening air. I always knew she wouldn't last. Too soft. My cousin Natalie is unmated. Maybe Darius will consider her now. She's from the Blackwood line. Thank the moon this drama is finally over. Now we can get back to normal. I heard she tried to refuse the rejection at first. Can you imagine? Like she had any choice. Omega blood. It's always the Omega blood that causes problems. 2 enforcers grabbed her arms, hauling her roughly to her feet. Her legs almost gave out, but they held her up with bruising force. The silver cuffs stayed on, burning deeper now that her adrenaline was starting to fade, and the reality of everything was sinking in. They dragged her off the platform, through the thinning crowd of sneering faces and cold, indifferent eyes, toward the eastern edge of the territory where the forest grew dark and wild. No one said goodbye. No one tried to stop it. No one spoke up to say this was wrong. Serena recognized some of the wolves they passed. Maya Chen, who used to share her hunting shifts, who'd laughed with her over badly cooked rabbit just last month. Jared Moss, who'd taught her how to track deer when she was 12, who'd been patient when she kept losing the scent. Old Ruth, the pack's midwife, who'd supposedly helped deliver Serena when she was born, though Serena had no memory of her own mother. They all looked away, every single one. The walk to the border felt both endless and too short. Serena's mind kept fragmenting, jumping between disbelief and numb acceptance. This couldn't be happening. This was actually happening. Maybe she'd wake up and this would all be a nightmare. No, the pain was too real for dreams. When they finally reached the border, marked by a line of ancient white stones half buried in the earth, worn smooth by centuries of weather, one of the enforcers removed the silver cuffs. It was Marcus Way, a wolf she'd known since childhood. They'd played together as pups, rolling in the dirt and practicing their shifts. He'd been her first real friend before pack politics had pulled them into different circles. His expression was carefully neutral, but she thought she saw something flicker in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or just relief that it wasn't him being cast out. "You've got until sunrise," he said, not quite meeting her gaze. His voice was flat, professional. "After that, you're fair game. Any crown wolf who finds you outside our territory has the right to kill you on sight. Those are the Alpha's orders." Serena rubbed her raw wrists, feeling the blisters break and weep. Her wolf was still whimpering somewhere deep in her mind, curled up small and hurt. The rejection pain hadn't faded at all. If anything, it was getting worse, spreading through her chest like poison. "Why?" she asked hoarsely, looking at Marcus directly. "Why are you all doing this? I never hurt anyone. I tried my best at everything. Orders," Marcus said shortly. Then quieter, almost too low to hear. "I'm sorry, Serena. I really am. But this is bigger than you or me. The pack has to come first. It always has to come first." "What does that even mean? I am pack. I was born here." "Not anymore." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You need to go. Now. Before they change their minds about the dawn grace period." "Change their minds to what? Kill me immediately instead of waiting?" He didn't answer. That was answer enough. Marcus turned and walked back toward the packlands, his shoulders stiff, leaving her standing alone in the gathering darkness at the edge of everything she'd ever known. Serena stood there for a long moment, staring at the white stones that marked the boundary. On one side, the Crown territory. Familiar forests, marked trails, patrols that kept the border safe. On the other side, the Vale, the wild lands between territories where pack law didn't reach. She'd never been past these stones before. Never had a reason to leave. Behind her, she could still hear the pack, distant voices, laughter, life going on without her like she'd never existed. Ahead of her, darkness and unknown dangers. She took a step forward across the boundary. Nothing dramatic happened. No lightning strike, no mystical barrier. Just one foot, then the other, and she was outside Crown territory for the first time in her life. Exiled, alone. The forest seemed to close in immediately, the trees taller and more threatening on this side of the stones. The temperature dropped as the last light faded from the sky. Serena wrapped her arms around herself and started walking, each step taking her further from the only home she'd ever known. The borderlands were not kind to the weak or the unprepared. They called it the Vale, the stretch of wild, unclaimed forest that separated pack territories from the true wilderness beyond. It was a no-man's land, haunted by rogues who'd been exiled or had chosen to leave their packs, by feral shifters who'd lost their human sides entirely, and by things that didn't have names and shouldn't be looked at directly. Most wolves avoided it unless absolutely necessary, and those who had to cross it did so in groups, armed and alert. Serena had no choice. She stumbled forward, her legs unsteady, her chest still aching from the severed bond. It felt like someone had reached into her ribcage and torn out half her heart, leaving the edges ragged and bleeding. Every step sent fresh waves of pain through her body. The rejection agony mixed with exhaustion and the lingering burn from the silver cuffs. The forest swallowed her quickly. Massive pines towered overhead, their branches blocking out what little starlight tried to penetrate the canopy. Thick underbrush grabbed at her legs. Branches clawed at her clothes and caught in her hair, scraping across her arms and face. Roots seemed to reach up deliberately to trip her, sending her stumbling. The temperature dropped fast once the sun disappeared completely, and Serena was wearing only the thin dress she'd been forced to put on for the rejection ceremony, something deliberately chosen to make her look vulnerable and unthreatening. It was working. She walked for hours, trying to put as much distance as possible between herself and the pack. Maybe longer. Time blurred into a haze of pain and exhaustion, and the mechanical process of putting one foot in front of the other. Her wolf wouldn't respond to her attempts at contact. The rejection had damaged something fundamental inside her, had left her animal half curled up in a dark corner of her mind, whimpering and unreachable. She couldn't shift, couldn't access the enhanced healing that shifters relied on, couldn't do anything but keep moving on increasingly unsteady legs. When full darkness fell, she heard them, howls in the distance, wild and hungry and utterly without humanity. Rogues. Serena's heart hammered against her ribs. She forced herself to move faster, ignoring the way her legs shook, the way her vision swam and doubled. But she was weak, so terribly weak. Without her wolf accessible, she was barely more than human, maybe less than human, considering how sheltered her life had been. She'd never had to truly survive on her own. The howls got closer, echoing through the trees. She ran. Branches whipped across her face, drawing blood that she could taste, copper sharp. Her foot caught on a root and she went down hard, skinning her palms on the rough ground, her knees hitting stone. She scrambled back up and kept going, her breath coming in ragged gasps that hurt her throat. Behind her, something crashed through the underbrush, getting closer, gaining fast. Serena spotted a rocky outcropping ahead, a jumble of boulders that might offer some protection, and made for it desperately. Maybe if she could wedge herself between the stones, make herself a harder target, they'd lose interest and move on to easier prey. A weight slammed into her from the side. She went down, rolling through dead leaves and dirt and old pine needles. When she came up, her back against one of the boulders, there were eyes in the darkness all around her. Yellow eyes. Hungry eyes. Feral. 3 wolves, all in animal form. Rogues. She could tell by their matted, filthy fur, by their visible ribs showing through mangy coats, by the absolute madness in their gazes. They'd been alone too long, separated from pack structure for so many years that they'd lost their humanity bit by bit, until only the beast remained. They were more dangerous than almost anything else in these woods. One of them lunged, jaws aimed for her throat. Serena threw up her arms, knowing it was useless, knowing she was about to die out here alone and forgotten and unmourned. The rogue yelped and veered off at the last possible second, like it had hit an invisible barrier. Confused, her mind struggling to process what had just happened, Serena looked down at herself. Her arms were glowing. Faint silver light traced patterns beneath her skin, following the lines of her veins like rivers of liquid moon. It pulsed in time with her heartbeat, growing brighter as she watched, spreading from her hands up her arms. The 3 rogues backed away, whining low in their throats, their ears flattened, their tails tucked. They looked afraid. Then they turned as one and ran, crashing back into the forest like demons were chasing them. Serena stared at her hands, breathing hard, her whole body shaking. The silver glow faded slowly, sinking back beneath her skin until she looked normal again. Human again. Except nothing about this was normal. What the hell was that? She whispered to the empty forest. Her wolf stirred for the first time since the rejection. Just barely. A flicker of awareness, of curiosity. What are we? Serena had no answer, but she was alive. For now, that would have to be enough. She pushed herself to her feet on trembling legs and kept walking, driven by pure survival instinct to put more distance between herself and the Crown territory, between herself and everything that had just happened. The night was long and cold and filled with sounds she didn't recognize. She walked through the entire night, driven by the simple animal need to survive, to move, to not stop, because stopping meant thinking and thinking meant feeling. And feeling meant breaking down completely. Her mind kept replaying the rejection on an endless loop. Darius's cold eyes, the crowd's laughter, gleeful and cruel, the feeling of the bond tearing apart like rotten fabric, the casual way he dismissed her entire existence. You were always weak. She'd given him everything, rearranged her whole life to fit beside him, changed herself, made herself smaller and quieter, endured the pack's whispered doubts about whether she was good enough for their precious heir. She'd smiled through the subtle insults from his friends, had pretended not to notice when he forgot their plans or when he compared her unfavorably to other females. She'd thought it would get better, thought love would be enough, and he'd thrown her away. By the time dawn started to lighten the eastern sky from black to deep blue, Serena could barely stand. Her feet were bleeding inside her shoes. Cuts covered her arms and face. Her dress was torn in a dozen places. She was shivering uncontrollably in the pre-dawn cold. She collapsed beside a narrow stream, too exhausted to take another step. Her knees gave out, and she fell hard, barely catching herself with her hands. The water burbled over smooth stones, clear and cold and indifferent. Her reflection stared back at her from the surface, gaunt, pale, hollow-eyed, bruised, bleeding from a dozen shallow cuts that should have healed already, but hadn't because her wolf was still unreachable. Dark circles under her eyes, hair matted with dirt and leaves, a ghost of the girl she used to be. "Maybe this is better," she whispered to her reflection, her voice raw and broken. "Maybe I should just stop. Let it end here. It would be easy. The cold would take her eventually, or the next predator that came along. She was too weak to fight, too broken to care." The forest didn't answer. Water continued its endless journey over stones. Somewhere far off, a bird called, greeting the dawn. Serena closed her eyes, letting the cold ground leach the warmth from her body, welcoming the numbness that was starting to spread through her limbs. And then she felt it again, that pulse, deep in her chest, exactly where the mate bond used to reside. Not the bond itself, that was gone, burned away in the rejection, but something else. Something that had been sleeping there, waiting. Her eyes snapped open. The pulse came again, stronger this time. It spread through her veins like liquid fire, waking parts of her she didn't know existed, lighting up pathways in her blood that had been dormant her entire life. Her wolf stirred again, more alert now, curious and confused in equal measure. "What is that?" Serena pressed a shaking hand to her chest. The sensation grew hotter, brighter, building like pressure behind a dam. It felt like her ribs might crack open from the force of whatever was trying to emerge. Then the pain hit. Real pain. Transformative pain. She screamed, the sound echoing through the forest. Her body convulsed. Bones shifted under her skin in ways that shouldn't be possible, that defied every understanding she had of shifter anatomy. This wasn't a normal shift. Those were smooth, practiced, natural. This was violent, chaotic, wrong. Her spine arched, her muscles tore and reknitted themselves in new configurations. Her vision went white, then black, then fractured into strange colors she had no names for. Heat poured through her blood like molten metal. That silver light erupted across her skin again, brighter than before, so bright she could see it through her closed eyelids, bright enough to cast shadows in the pre-dawn gloom, and with the light came memories. Memories that couldn't possibly be hers. A woman with silver eyes standing on a clifftop under a full moon that seemed close enough to touch. She was speaking words in a language Serena had never heard but somehow understood. Old words, power words, words that made the earth shake and the sky crack open. Ancient pack grounds where hundreds of wolves gathered, but instead of an alpha on the stone platform, there stood a woman, silver-eyed, crowned in moonlight. And when she spoke, everyone listened with reverence bordering on worship. Battle. Chaos. Fire. The silver-eyed woman moving through enemies like a force of nature, power radiating from her in visible waves. Fear, anger, betrayal, torches in the night. Wolves she'd led turning on her, calling her abomination, witch, too dangerous to live. Running, hiding, bloodlines scattered to the winds. "Who are you?" Serena tried to ask, but her voice was lost in the transformation. The vision shattered like broken glass. Serena found herself on her hands and knees in the dirt beside the stream, gasping for air like she'd been drowning. Sweat poured off her despite the morning chill. Her whole body shook violently, muscles spasming. But she wasn't weak anymore. The difference was immediate and undeniable. Her hands, her human hands pressed into the dirt, were steady, strong. The cuts that had covered them moments ago were gone, healed completely. When she pushed herself up, testing her limbs, she moved with an ease and power she'd never felt before in her entire life. Her senses sharpened until the world became almost overwhelming. She could hear the heartbeat of a rabbit at least 50 yards away, could smell rain coming hours before it would arrive, could taste the minerals in the air and identify each one. The individual leaves on trees stood out in sharp relief. She could track the path of a single ant across a rock 10 feet away. She looked down at herself. Her skin seemed to glow faintly in the growing light, those same silver veins tracing intricate patterns that looked almost like writing in a language she couldn't quite read. The patterns faded even as she watched, sinking back beneath her skin, but she could still feel them there, still feel the power humming just below the surface. What the hell is happening to me? Her wolf rose to the surface, no longer broken, no longer whimpering and traumatized. It felt different, powerful, ancient, like something had been unlocked that was supposed to stay sealed, like chains had broken and released something that predated the modern pack system. Serena stood slowly, testing her body. Everything worked, better than worked. She felt like she could run for days without tiring, like she could fight anything that challenged her, like she could survive whatever the world threw at her. The exhaustion was gone. The pain was gone. Even the ache from the rejection had faded to something manageable, sealed behind this new power like a wound that had finally scarred over. She didn't understand it, didn't know what was happening or why. But for the first time since Darius had said those terrible words, since the bond had snapped and her world had ended, she felt something other than pain and despair. She felt anger, cold, clear, focused like a blade. They'd called her weak, pathetic, insufficient. They'd thrown her away like trash, had laughed at her suffering, had enjoyed watching her break. Darius had looked at her like she was nothing. The pack had cast her out to die. Weak, she said softly to the forest, to the growing light, to the memory of every sneering face. Her voice came out different, still hers, but with an edge of something else underneath, something that made a nearby bird stop singing. We'll see about that. The days that followed were brutal in ways Serena had never imagined, but also transformative. She had no supplies, no shelter, no weapons, no idea how to survive in the deep wilderness beyond pack territories. She'd lived her whole life in the Crown Lands, protected by borders and patrols and the structure of pack life. Out here, she was completely on her own. She learned fast. She had no choice. Hunger taught her to hunt. Not in wolf form, she still didn't fully trust this new power enough to shift, but as a human with newly enhanced senses. She learned to move silent and patient through the underbrush, to read animal trails, to understand which creatures were safe to eat and which weren't. She failed more than she succeeded at first, going hungry for days at a time. But she kept trying. Thirst taught her to read the landscape with new eyes, to find water even when there were no obvious streams, to tell clean sources from contaminated ones. She learned which plants held moisture, how to follow animal paths to hidden springs. Cold taught her to build fire with nothing but friction and determination, sparked by desperation on a night when the temperature dropped below freezing and she thought she might not see morning. It took her 6 hours of trying, her fingers raw and bleeding, before she finally got a spark to catch. When the tiny flame flickered to life, she'd actually cried. Pain taught her the limits of her new body and how to push past them. She discovered she healed faster now, not instantly, but a deep cut that should have taken weeks to close was gone in days. Bruises faded in hours. Her stamina seemed endless. And every night, under the moon, that strange power grew stronger. She could feel it now, coiled beneath her skin like a living thing. It responded to her emotions, flaring when she was angry, settling when she was calm. When she concentrated, she could make it rise to the surface, that silver glow spreading across her arms, her chest, anywhere she directed it. It made her faster, stronger. Her already enhanced senses sharpened even further when the power was active. More than that, it seemed to affect the world around her in ways she was only beginning to understand. Once, cornered by a pair of feral shifters who were bigger and more experienced than her, she'd thrown out her hand in pure desperation, and the air itself had rippled. Both ferals had been thrown backward like they'd hit an invisible wall, hitting trees hard enough to crack bark. They'd run after that, terrified, leaving her standing there staring at her hand in shock. Another time, lost and disoriented in a heavy fog that had rolled in without warning, she'd closed her eyes and simply known which direction to go. Like the forest itself was guiding her, whispering directions in a language without words. She'd followed the feeling and found her way back to the cave system she'd started using as a base. She started having dreams every night. Always the same woman, silver eyes that seemed to see everything. Sometimes she stood on that cliff top, wind whipping her hair, power radiating from her like heat from a flame. Sometimes she walked through pack gatherings, wolves parting before her in reverence and fear. Sometimes she fought, moving with brutal grace that made violence look like dance, tearing through enemies like they were made of paper. And always, always, those silver eyes locked on Serena. "You are more than they told you," the woman said in one dream, her voice echoing. "More than they could ever understand. They tried to bury us, tried to erase what we were. But blood remembers, little wolf. Blood always remembers." Serena woke, gasping, those words echoing in her skull. "Who are you?" she asked the empty cave, her voice bouncing off stone walls. "What are you doing to me?" No answer came, but deep down, in a place that felt older than thought, she was starting to suspect the truth. Her mother had died when Serena was only 5 years old. She remembered almost nothing about her except a soft voice, gentle hands, and eyes that caught the light strangely. Her father, who'd raised her alone until his death when she was 15, had never talked about her mother's family. Said they were gone, scattered, that it didn't matter where Serena came from. What if it did matter? What if her mother had been hiding from something? What if Serena wasn't just a weak wolf from questionable bloodlines? What if she was something else entirely? 3 weeks into her exile, the rogues found her again. There were 4 of them this time, more organized than the ferals she'd encountered before. These were wolves who'd been cast out of packs but hadn't lost their minds yet. Desperate men and women who'd banded together in the Vale to survive, who'd become predators out of necessity. They were dangerous in a different way than the ferals. They could think, plan, coordinate. They surrounded her in a clearing as she was trying to cook the rabbit she'd finally managed to catch after 2 days of failed attempts. She'd been so focused on not burning her meal that she'd missed their approach. Stupid, careless. "Well, well," the largest one said, shifting from wolf to human form. He was scarred all over, filthy, his hair matted, but his eyes were clear, disturbingly clear. Not feral at all, just ruthless. "Look what we have here, a lost little pack wolf all alone in the big bad woods." The others laughed. 2 males, 1 female, all of them showing ribs beneath skin that hadn't seen enough food. Serena didn't move, didn't speak, just watched them circle her like sharks, cataloging strengths and weaknesses out of habit. "You alone, sweetheart?" another one asked. This one was lean and twitchy, shifting his weight constantly, fingers flexing. Unstable, but not stupid. "That's not smart. Lots of bad things in these woods, especially for someone who smells like... What's that? Crown pack?" He sniffed dramatically. "Oh, but wait. You don't quite smell like pack anymore, do you? You smell like exile, like rejection." They all laughed again, the sound cruel and knowing. "Yeah," the big one agreed, grinning with too many teeth. "Like us." They lunged, all 4 at once, coordinated, having clearly done this before to other lone wolves. Serena's wolf surged forward with a ferocity that shocked her, and she shifted without conscious thought. But it wasn't the shift she remembered from before her exile. Her wolf form was bigger now, significantly bigger, at least a third larger than she used to be, with muscle and power that shouldn't have been possible. Her fur shimmered with that same silver glow, brightest along her spine and legs like she'd been dipped in moonlight. And when she snarled, the sound that came out was something primal and terrifying, something that spoke of ancient power and violence. The rogues actually hesitated mid-attack, their momentum faltering. Not for long, though. Desperation made wolves stupid. The fight was brutal and savage. Teeth and claws and blood. 4 experienced fighters against 1. But Serena moved like something unleashed from a cage, faster than she had any right to be, hitting harder than physics should allow. The power in her veins sang as she tore into the first rogue with a savagery that came from somewhere deep and dark inside her, from weeks of pain and rage and humiliation that finally had an outlet. He went down screaming, his throat opened, blood spraying across the forest floor. The lean, twitchy one jumped on her back, trying to bite down on her spine. She twisted with strength she shouldn't have, throwing him off like he weighed nothing, and caught his leg in her jaws. Bone crunched between her teeth. The sound was satisfying. He howled, the sound almost human. The other 2 tried to retreat, their eyes wide, suddenly realizing they'd made a terrible mistake. She didn't let them. Something cold and furious had taken over. All those weeks of suffering, of being called weak, of being mocked and rejected and thrown away like trash, it all poured out in violence and rage, and the sheer pleasure of being strong enough to hurt back. She caught the female rogue and slammed her into a tree hard enough to crack the trunk. The male tried to run. She hunted him down in seconds, moving so fast he never had a chance, and brought him down with claws raking across his back. When it was finally over, all 4 rogues lay broken in the dirt and blood-soaked leaves. Not dead, she'd held back just enough at the last second, some shred of her humanity pulling her back from the killing blow. But broken, bleeding, whimpering. No longer a threat. Serena shifted back to human form, breathing hard, blood streaking her arms and chest and face. Most of it wasn't hers. Her hands were shaking. She stared at the carnage around her, at what she'd done. What am I becoming? The question felt different now. Less frightened. More curious. The moon hung overhead, fat and silver and watchful. But deep in her chest, that ancient pulse hummed steady and sure, satisfied with the violence, pleased with the strength finally unleashed. And for the first time since the rejection, Serena smiled. Not a happy smile. Not even satisfied. This was the smile of a predator who'd just remembered she had teeth, who'd just realized she was tired of being prey. Weak, she said softly to the moaning rogues, to the night, to the memory of Darius and his cold dismissal, to every wolf who'd laughed at her suffering. Her voice came out steady and strong and utterly without fear. We'll see about that. The change became undeniable after the rogue attack. Serena stopped just surviving. She started evolving. She hunted with ruthless efficiency now, her enhanced senses making every living thing within a mile radius visible to her awareness like pieces on a chessboard. Deer, rabbits, even the occasional wild boar that wandered too close to her territory. Because yes, she'd started thinking of this section of the Vale as hers. She built herself a proper shelter in the cave system she'd found, hidden deep enough that casual passers-by would never notice the entrance. She gathered supplies from abandoned campsites scattered through the forest, remnants of failed expeditions, lost travelers, rogues who hadn't made it. A tarp here, a knife there, rope, flint. Each item was a small victory. She started mapping the territory in her mind, learning its rhythms and dangers the way she used to know the Crown lands. Which areas the ferals favored, where the rogues made their camps, which paths led deeper into the wilderness, and which curved back toward pack territories. The power in her blood grew stronger every day. She practiced with it obsessively, alone under the stars when the moon was high, learning to control the silver light that lived beneath her skin. She could run for hours without tiring now, her body seeming to draw energy from the moonlight itself. Wounds healed in minutes instead of hours. Her strength had tripled, maybe quadrupled. She'd tested it by lifting fallen logs that should have required 3 wolves to move. More than physical changes, though, she felt her mind sharpening, becoming colder, more calculating. The girl who'd begged Darius for mercy was gone. Something harder had taken her place. 6 weeks into her exile, she killed her first wolf. It wasn't planned, wasn't something she'd woken up intending to do. A rogue had cornered her while she was checking traps near the northern edge of her territory. Male, huge, with scars covering half his face and madness gleaming in his yellow eyes. Not quite feral, but close, that dangerous in-between state where they were still smart enough to hunt but no longer cared about consequences. "Pretty thing," he'd growled, shifting to human form, naked and shameless. "Been watching you, wondering when you'd be alone." Serena had tried to leave, tried to de-escalate. He'd grabbed her arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "Where you going? We're just getting started." She'd snapped. The silver light had erupted across her skin without conscious thought, and her hand had gone straight through his chest, not stabbed, not clawed, through. She'd stared at her arm buried to the elbow in his ribcage, at his shocked face, at the light pouring from the wound like liquid starlight instead of blood. He died without making a sound, just a wet gasp, and then nothing. When she pulled her hand free, the silver faded. She was left standing over a corpse with a hole where his heart used to be, her arm covered in blood up to her shoulder. Serena had expected to feel horror, guilt, remorse. Instead, she felt nothing. Maybe a slight satisfaction that he wouldn't hurt anyone else. One less predator in the forest, she'd said to his empty eyes. She'd walked away and never looked back.
Dass der Sor
The dreams intensified after that first kill. Every night now, the silver-eyed woman appeared. Sometimes the visions were so vivid, Serena couldn't tell where dreaming ended and waking began. She saw battles from centuries ago, before the modern pack system had solidified into what it was now. Saw the woman, her ancestor, she was certain of that now, leading wolves who looked at her with something beyond respect. Worship, almost. Fear and love mixed together. Saw her wielding power that made Serena's new abilities look like parlor tricks. Controlling entire packs with a word. Bending the elements themselves. Standing against threats that shouldn't have existed outside of myths. But she also saw the downfall. Saw other alphas growing jealous, threatened. Saw them whispering in dark corners, forming alliances. Saw them turn on her with fire and silver and treachery. They called us abominations, the woman said in one particularly vivid dream. Said we violated the natural order. That no wolf should have power beyond the shift. They hunted us like animals. What were you? Serena asked. What are we? We were the moon's first children. Before she created the common wolf, she made us. Gave us her light to carry in our blood. We were meant to guide, to protect, to rule when necessary. The woman's silver eyes burned, but power without equal breeds fear, and fear breeds violence. They killed you all? Most of us. Some hid, scattered across the world, buried their gifts, married into common bloodlines to hide what they were. Your mother was one of the last pure descendants. The woman stepped closer, and Serena could feel the heat radiating from her. She tried to live quietly, tried to pretend she was normal, but the gift always surfaces eventually, usually when survival demands it. The rejection triggered it. No. The woman smiled, sharp and knowing. The rejection removed the block. Darius's bond was suppressing you, dampening what you could become. When he severed it, he freed you. She laughed, the sound bitter. He threw away the most powerful wolf he'll ever meet because he was too blind to see what you were. Serena woke from that dream with tears on her face and rage burning in her chest. Darius hadn't just rejected her. He'd accidentally unleashed something he couldn't begin to understand. 2 months into exile, she encountered her first pack patrol. Not crown wolves. These were from the Blackwood pack, whose territory bordered the eastern edge of the Vale. 3 wolves in formation, doing a standard sweep of their boundary. Serena was downwind, watching from cover when she caught their scent. She should have left immediately, should have faded back into the forest and avoided contact. But she was curious, hungry for news from the civilized world. It had been so long since she'd heard another voice beyond her own. She stepped into view deliberately, hands raised to show she wasn't a threat. All 3 wolves shifted to human form immediately, weapons appearing in their hands with practiced speed. 2 males, 1 female. The female was clearly in charge, older, scarred, with eyes that missed nothing. Identify yourself, she barked. Serena Vale. I'm not a threat. You're in the Vale. That makes you rogue by definition. The woman's eyes narrowed. You smell like... What is that? There's pack scent underneath, but it's old, faded. I was exiled, crown pack. That got a reaction. The 3 Blackwood wolves exchanged glances. When? The female asked. 2 months ago. And you're still alive? One of the males sounded genuinely surprised. Most exiles last a week, maybe 2 before the Vale kills them. Serena shrugged. I learned fast. The female studied her with new interest, taking in Serena's lean frame, the way she stood balanced and ready, the confidence that hadn't been there when she'd lived with the Crown Pack. What did you do to get exiled? I existed. The bitterness in Serena's voice was impossible to hide. The Alpha's son rejected me as his mate. The pack decided my presence was causing problems. So they threw me out. Darius Crown rejected his mate? The female's eyebrows rose. That's unusual. Most heirs would weather the drama rather than sever a moon-blessed bond. He said I was weak, insufficient. The 3 Blackwood wolves looked at her again, clearly reassessing. Standing alone in the Vale after 2 months of survival, Serena looked anything but weak. You don't look insufficient to me, the female said slowly. What's your name? I told you, Serena Vale. I mean your real name, your full lineage.
Serena hesitated. I don't know my mother's family name. She died when I was young. My father never talked about her bloodline. Something flickered across the female's face. Recognition? Suspicion? It was gone too fast to read.
Well, Serena Vale, I'm Commander Lydia of the Blackwood Border Patrol. This is Marcus and Jace. She gestured to her companions. We're going to need you to move along. You're too close to our territory, and we have standing orders about rogues. I understand. Serena started to back away. Wait. Lydia's voice stopped her. Word of advice? There's been increased rogue activity in this sector. More organized than usual. Someone's gathering them, forming packs of outcasts. It's getting dangerous even by Vale standards. Why are you telling me this? Lydia shrugged. Because you're an exile, not a criminal. There's a difference. And because... She paused. Because something about you feels important. I don't know why, but my instincts are rarely wrong. She met Serena's eyes directly. Stay alive, Serena Vale. I have a feeling the Vale hasn't seen the last of you. They left after that, disappearing back toward Blackwood territory. Serena stood alone in the forest, turning Lydia's words over in her mind. Someone's gathering rogues. That was dangerous. Rogue packs were unstable at best, catastrophic at worst. Without the structure and hierarchy of traditional packs, they tended toward violence and chaos. She should stay away, mind her own business. But curiosity itched at her, that same reckless impulse that had made her step into view instead of staying hidden. She wanted to know what was happening in her forest. She found the rogue camp 3 days later. It was larger than she'd expected. Maybe 40 wolves, all outcasts and exiles like her, gathered in a box canyon that provided natural defense. Lean-tos and rough shelters clustered around a central fire pit. The smell of unwashed bodies and desperation hung thick in the air. Serena watched from the ridgeline above, hidden among the rocks, her enhanced senses cataloging everything. Most of the wolves below looked half-starved, their clothes ragged, their movements carrying the twitchy alertness of people who'd lived on the edge of violence for too long. But there was organization here. Guards posted at the canyon entrance, a rough hierarchy visible in the way some wolves deferred to others. Someone had imposed structure on what should have been chaos. She was about to leave. This wasn't her problem, and getting involved would only bring trouble, when she heard a voice that made her freeze. Bring the new ones forward! She knew that voice. Impossible, but she knew it. Serena shifted position, getting a better angle. A figure emerged from the largest shelter, and her breath caught. It was Isaac Reed, a wolf who'd been exiled from Crown Pack 3 years ago for challenging Alpha Marcus and losing. She remembered him. Everyone did. He'd been charismatic, dangerous, the kind of wolf who attracted followers without trying. He looked different now, harder, scarred, but his eyes still burned with that same intensity. Welcome to the Free Wolves, Isaac announced to a group of 5 miserable-looking exiles huddled near the fire. You were thrown away by packs who claimed to value strength, but only valued obedience. Who preached about survival of the fittest, but crushed anyone who stood out. Who called themselves family, but abandoned you the moment you became inconvenient. His words resonated through the camp. Serena could see wolves nodding, their faces reflecting old pain and anger. Here, we make our own rules, Isaac continued. Here, strength actually matters. Skill matters. Results matter. Not bloodlines. Not politics. Not who you know or who you were born to. He smiled, sharp and cold. Here, you get what you earn. Nothing more. Nothing less. One of the new exiles, a young male who couldn't have been more than 19, spoke up. What's the catch? There's always a catch. Isaac's smile widened. Smart question. The catch is simple. Loyalty. We survive together, or we die alone. You contribute to the pack protects you. You betray the pack. He let the sentence hang, but the implied threat was clear. What about the established packs? Another exile asked. They won't tolerate a rogue pack this size. Let them try to stop us. Isaac's voice carried absolute confidence. We're growing every week. Wolves the packs threw away, coming together to create something stronger than those corrupt institutions ever managed. And when we're strong enough, his eyes glittered. We'll take what should have been ours from the beginning. Serena's stomach tightened. This wasn't just survival. This was revolution. She watched for another hour, learning everything she could. The camp held maybe 40 wolves now, but Isaac clearly expected that number to grow. They had scouts ranging through the Vale, looking for other exiles to recruit. Had supply raids planned against pack territories. Were stockpiling weapons and resources. This was going to end badly. Either the established packs would unite to crush the free wolves, or Isaac would actually succeed in building something powerful enough to challenge the existing order. Either way, blood was coming. Serena started to pull back, to leave before anyone spotted her. "I know you're up there." Isaac's voice carried clearly up the rocks. Every wolf in the camp went still, hands moving to weapons. Serena cursed silently. She'd been careful, stayed downwind, made no sound. How had he... "Your scent is... interesting," Isaac called out. "Familiar, but different. Why don't you come down and introduce yourself instead of spying like a coward?" She had two choices, run or engage. Running would mark her as an enemy, would potentially bring 40 wolves hunting her through territory she'd claimed as home. Engaging was dangerous for entirely different reasons. Serena stood slowly, stepping into view on the ridgeline. Every eye in the camp locked on her. "Well," Isaac said, his smile growing. "Serena Vale. I'll be damned. I heard you got exiled, but I didn't believe it. Little Serena too weak to pass combat trials, too soft to make it in the real world." He tilted his head. "Yet here you are. Still breathing, still standing. That's unexpected." "People surprise you when you stop underestimating them," Serena said evenly. "Clearly," Isaac gestured toward the camp. "Come down. Let's talk." "I'm fine where I am." "That wasn't a request." Immediately, a dozen wolves shifted position, forming a loose circle below her. Escape routes vanished. Serena weighed her options. She could probably fight her way out. Her new power made her dangerous even against numbers. But she didn't want to reveal that yet. Didn't want word spreading about what she could do. She climbed down the rocks, moving with careful neutrality. When she reached the canyon floor, the circle of wolves tightened slightly but didn't attack. Isaac approached her, stopping just outside striking distance. Up close, she could see the changes Exile had carved into him. New scars, a coldness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "You've changed," he observed. "Exile does that." "Indeed it does." He circled her slowly, assessing. 2 months in the Vale, and you look better than most wolves do after 2 weeks. You've been eating well, moving confidently. That's impressive for someone who couldn't handle basic pack training. Maybe the pack training was the problem, not me. That got a laugh from several wolves nearby. Isaac smiled. "Maybe so. Tell me, Serena, what brings you to my camp?" "Your camp? I was here first. I've been living in this sector for weeks." "Interesting." Isaac's eyes sharpened. "And you didn't think to introduce yourself? To seek out allies?" "I didn't see any allies, just desperate wolves who'd tear each other apart for scraps." Tension rippled through the assembled wolves. Several growled. Isaac held up a hand and the growls stopped immediately. The level of control he had was impressive and unsettling. "Fair assessment," he said. "That's what we were a month ago, but we're building something better now, something stronger." He stepped closer. "Join us." "No." The word fell into shocked silence. Apparently people didn't refuse Isaac Reed. "No?" Isaac's smile didn't waver, but his eyes went cold. "Just like that?" "I didn't survive exile to trade one pack for another. I'm done following." "Everyone follows someone, Serena. The only question is whether you choose your leader or circumstances choose for you." "Then I choose neither." Isaac studied her for a long moment. Serena could feel the weight of 40 wolves watching, waiting for his reaction. This could go violent very quickly. "You know what I think?" Isaac said finally. "I think you're lying. Not about refusing to join, I believe that, but about why you're here. You didn't stumble on this camp by accident. You were scouting, learning our strength, our numbers." Serena said nothing. He wasn't wrong. "Which means you're either working for one of the packs, which seems unlikely given your exile, or you're planning something on your own." His head tilted. "What are you planning, little Serena?" "Survival. Same as everyone else." "I don't believe you." He moved faster than she expected, and suddenly there was a knife at her throat, his other hand gripping her arm. "I think you're dangerous. I think you're hiding something, and I think I should kill you right now before you become a problem."
The silver light flared beneath Serena's skin, responding to the threat. She tamped it down hard, refusing to let it show. But it took effort.
"If you were going to kill me, you'd have done it already instead of talking," she said calmly, meeting his eyes without flinching. "You're testing me, seeing if I'll break." Isaac's smile returned, genuine this time. "Smart." He lowered the knife, stepping back. "You're right, I'm testing you, and you passed." "What?" Most wolves would have groveled, begged for mercy, shown weakness. He sheathed the knife. "You stood your ground. That's rare. That's valuable." He paused. "My offer stands. Join the free wolves. Use that spine for something more than solitary survival. And if I refuse again, then you leave, now, and you never come back to this canyon." His voice hardened. "Because next time you're spotted near our territory, I will kill you, not as a test, as a threat elimination." Serena looked around at the assembled wolves, at their hunger and desperation and anger, at the crude weapons and makeshift shelter, at Isaac's dangerous charisma holding it all together through sheer force of personality. This was going to explode eventually, and when it did, she didn't want to be anywhere near the blast radius. "I'll leave," she said. "Smart choice." Isaac gestured, and the circle of wolves parted, creating a path toward the canyon exit. "For what it's worth, Serena, I'm sorry about what Darius did to you, the rejection, the exile. You deserved better." "Don't." The word came out sharper than she intended. "Don't pretend you care. You just want to use me like everyone else." Isaac shrugged. "True, but I'm honest about it. That's more than the Crown Pack ever gave you." Serena walked toward the exit, feeling eyes track her every step. Just before she reached the canyon mouth, Isaac called out one more time. "When you're ready to stop hiding in the shadows and actually do something with that power you're sitting on, you know where to find me." She didn't respond, didn't look back, just kept walking until the rogue camp disappeared behind the rocks and trees. Only then did she let herself shake. That had been close, too close. And Isaac's words echoed in her head. That power you're sitting on. He'd felt it. Maybe not understood it, but felt it. The silver light beneath her skin. The potential for violence she carried like a loaded weapon. How many others had noticed? The encounter with Isaac changed things. Serena couldn't just survive anymore. The Vale was becoming crowded with wolves who had noticed her, who knew she existed. Sooner or later, someone would push for answers about what she was. And she still didn't fully understand it herself. She needed information, needed to understand her bloodline, her power, what she was capable of, and what the limits were. The dreams weren't enough anymore. 3 weeks after the rogue camp encounter, she made a decision that probably qualified as insane. She was going to break into Crown Pack territory. Not to see Darius, not for revenge, not yet. She was going to find her father's things. He'd died when she was 15, and his belongings had been stored in the Pack's archive building, a structure where they kept records, historical items, anything considered important to Pack heritage. She'd never thought to look through his stuff before. Had been too young, too grief-stricken, and then too focused on trying to fit in as Darius's mate. But her father had known about her mother's family. Had to have known, if the woman in her dreams was right about bloodlines and gifts. Maybe he'd left clues, records, something that could explain what was happening to her. It was a terrible plan. The Crown Pack had standing orders to kill her on sight if she crossed their borders. The archive building was in the center of their territory, well guarded and monitored. But Serena wasn't the same wolf who'd been exiled 3 months ago. She waited for the new moon, when darkness was absolute and even shifter vision struggled. Then she crossed the border in the dead of night, moving like a ghost through territory she'd known her entire life. The patrols hadn't changed their routes. Sloppy, predictable. She avoided them easily, her enhanced senses making the darkness irrelevant. She could hear heartbeats from 50 yards away, smell individual wolves before they came into view. The silver light hummed beneath her skin, ready to be called if she needed it. The archive building sat near the Alpha's house, a deliberate placement that showed how much the Pack valued their history. It was a squat stone structure with thick walls and narrow windows, built to withstand attacks in time. Serena circled it twice, checking for guards and finding none. Why would they guard an archive? Nothing in there posed a threat. The lock was old-fashioned, meant to keep out casual trespassers rather than determined wolves. She had it picked in under a minute using techniques she'd learned from watching Rogues in the Vale. Inside, the air smelled of old paper and dust. Rows of shelves stretched into darkness, packed with boxes and files, the pack's collective memory, stored in chronological order. She found her father's section quickly. Alphabetical filing, thanked the moon for bureaucratic consistency. 3 boxes labeled Vale, Thomas, Deceased. Serena carried them to a back corner where a single small window provided just enough starlight to read by. She opened the first box. Personal effects. His watch. Some clothes. A photograph of him and a woman Serena barely recognized. Her mother, she assumed, though the memory was so faded it might as well have been a stranger. The second box held financial records, property deeds. Nothing useful. The third box held letters. Dozens of them, tied with string, addressed in her mother's handwriting according to the name on the envelopes. Vale Elena. Serena's hand shook as she untied the string and pulled out the first letter. It was dated 24 years ago, before Serena was born. My dearest Thomas, I write this knowing you may never understand what I'm about to tell you, but you deserve the truth before we bind our lives together. My family isn't what you think. We aren't common wolves. We carry something older, something dangerous. The moon's first gift, some call it. A power that manifests in times of great need or great trauma. My mother had it, my grandmother. All the women in our line, going back further than recorded history. We've been hunted for it, feared for it, killed for it. Most of us learned to hide what we were, to suppress the gift, and live as normal wolves. I'm telling you this because I love you, and because if we have children, especially daughters, they may carry this gift too. You need to know what you're agreeing to, what dangers might come. If you choose to walk away, I'll understand. The gift is a curse as much as a blessing. Yours always, Elena. Serena's eyes burned. She flipped through more letters, watching her parents' relationship unfold in ink and paper. Her father's response had been immediate and unwavering. He loved Elena regardless of bloodline or gift. They'd married, had Serena. The later letters grew darker. Thomas, they found us. I don't know how, but someone knows what I am. There have been wolves watching the house, asking questions about my family. I'm scared for Serena. If they learn she might carry the gift. The last letter was dated 3 weeks before her mother's death. Thomas, I've made arrangements. If anything happens to me, take Serena and leave Crown Territory. Go somewhere they won't think to look. Raise her as a common wolf. Never tell her about my bloodline. The gift only manifests under extreme circumstances. Rejection, near death, great trauma. If she never knows it exists, if she lives a quiet, safe life, she might never trigger it. Let her be normal. Let her be safe. That's all I want for our daughter. I love you both. E. Serena sat in the darkness, tears streaming down her face, her mother's words echoing in her head. Let her be normal. Let her be safe. Her father had tried, had stayed in Crown Territory because leaving would have drawn suspicion, had never told her about her mother's family because he was trying to protect her, trying to keep the gift from manifesting. And then Darius had rejected her, and the trauma had shattered whatever barriers had kept the power dormant. I'm sorry, Dad, she whispered to the empty room. I'm sorry I couldn't stay normal. A sound outside froze her mid-breath. Footsteps. Voices. Thought I saw movement near the archive. Probably just a raccoon. There's no one stupid enough to break in here. Shit. Serena shoved the letters back in the box, replaced everything on the shelf as quickly and quietly as possible. The voices were getting closer. 2 wolves, maybe 3, coming to investigate. She moved to the window, pushed it open, and slipped through just as the front door opened behind her. Voices filled the archive. See? Nothing. You're paranoid, Marcus. I'm thorough. There's a difference. Serena pressed herself against the outside wall, barely breathing. The window was still open. If they checked, fine, we'll do a sweep. But when we find nothing, you're buying drinks for a week. She couldn't wait. Serena bolted, running low and fast toward the tree line 50 yards away. Behind her, someone shouted, "There! I told you! Stop! Identify yourself!" She hit the trees at full sprint, the silver light erupting across her skin in response to the adrenaline flooding her system. She ran faster than any common wolf could manage, putting distance between herself and the pursuing patrol. What the hell was that? Did you see how fast? Rogue! We've got a rogue in the territory! Sound the alarm! Howls split the night. Within seconds, the entire pack would be mobilized. Serena ran for her life, pushing her enhanced speed to its limit. The border was a mile away. She could make it if she was fast enough, if she didn't run into more patrols. A massive gray wolf stepped into her path, blocking the trail. Serena skidded to a stop, her heart hammering. The wolf shifted. It was Marcus Crown, the alpha himself. "Well," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Look what wandered back across our borders." More wolves appeared from the shadows, surrounding her. 8, 10, a dozen, trapped. Alpha Marcus smiled, and it was the coldest thing Serena had ever seen. "Kill her!" The silver light exploded from Serena's skin before Marcus finished giving the order. It wasn't a conscious decision. Pure survival instinct took over, and the power that had been growing inside her for 3 months erupted outward in a wave of brilliant light that turned night into day. Every wolf surrounding her stumbled backward, shielding their eyes, disoriented by the sudden brightness. Serena didn't hesitate. She bolted through the gap in their circle, running for the border with everything she had. "Don't let her escape!" Marcus roared behind her. "I want her alive!" Alive. That was new. The order had been to kill her seconds ago. Serena didn't have time to analyze the change. She poured on speed, the silver light still flickering across her skin like lightning, her enhanced abilities pushing her body past normal limits. Trees blurred past. The border was close now, 200 yards, maybe less. Behind her, the sound of pursuit grew louder. Multiple wolves, all in animal form, moving fast. They were gaining despite her enhanced speed because they knew this territory better, knew every shortcut and hidden trail. A massive brown wolf lunged from her left, jaws snapping for her leg. Serena twisted mid-stride, bringing her arm down in an arc. The silver light concentrated in her hand, and when she struck the wolf's skull, the impact sent him tumbling through the underbrush like he'd been hit by a truck. 2 more came from the right. She didn't slow down, didn't try to fight, just ran, pushing harder, the border so close she could smell the different scent markers that divided Crown territory from the Vale. A wolf landed on her back, massive weight driving her down. They hit the ground hard, rolling through dirt and dead leaves. Teeth snapped inches from her throat. Serena got her hands up, grabbed the wolf's jaw, and channeled every ounce of power she could summon into her grip. The wolf yelped and released her, scrambling backward with smoke rising from where her hands had touched his fur. She was up and running again, legs pumping, lungs burning. The border stones appeared ahead, pale markers in the darkness. Almost there. Something hit her from the side with enough force to crack ribs, a tackle that sent them both crashing through the boundary line and into Vale territory. Serena rolled to her feet, gasping, and found herself facing Darius. He'd shifted to human form, standing between her and deeper Vale territory, blocking her escape route. Behind him, a dozen Crown wolves formed a semicircle, all still in animal form, all watching with predatory focus. Marcus walked through the circle, fully human, utterly calm. The Alpha's presence was suffocating even at 10 yards. "Interesting," Marcus said, studying her with cold calculation. "The reports didn't mention you could do that." He gestured at her hands, where silver light still flickered faintly beneath the skin. Serena said nothing. Her chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath, tried to think through the panic and adrenaline. She was across the border, technically outside their territory. But that clearly didn't matter. They'd followed her into the Vale without hesitation. "Stand down," Marcus ordered his wolves. Then to Serena, "We need to talk." "Talk? You ordered them to kill me." "I changed my mind." Marcus took a step closer. Darius moved to flank his father, his golden eyes fixed on Serena with an expression she couldn't read. Not hatred, something closer to shock. "When I saw what you did back there, that light, that power, I realized we made a mistake." Like, "We?" Serena laughed, the sound harsh and broken. "You mean you? You and your son? You're the ones who threw me away like garbage." "Yes," Marcus said simply. "We did. And now I'm wondering what we actually threw away." The admission caught her off guard. Alphas didn't admit mistakes. Ever. "What do you want?" she asked. "Information. You've been in the Vale for 3 months. You're still alive, which is remarkable. You've clearly developed abilities that weren't present during your time in our pack. Marcus's eyes narrowed. I want to know what you are. I'm the wolf you said wasn't good enough to be part of your bloodline. That was before you started glowing like a moonbeam and throwing grown wolves around like toys. Marcus crossed his arms. So I'll ask again, what are you? Serena glanced at Darius. He was staring at her with something that might have been regret or might have been calculation. Hard to tell. You had your chance to know me, she said to him directly. You rejected it, rejected me. You don't get to come back now and demand answers. Serena, Darius started. Don't. The word cracked like a whip. You don't get to say my name. You gave up that right when you stood in front of the entire pack and called me weak. You were weak, Darius said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. You couldn't pass combat trials. You flinched in training. You were what you needed me to be so you'd have an excuse to cut me loose. Serena's laugh was bitter. You wanted out of the mate bond and you couldn't admit it, so you blamed me. Made it my fault. Made everyone believe I was the problem. Silence fell. Several of the watching wolves shifted uncomfortably. Is that true, son? Marcus asked quietly. Darius's jaw tightened. The bond was wrong. I felt it. She felt it too. She just wouldn't admit. The bond was fine until you decided it wasn't. Serena cut him off. Until you realized being mated to someone without a prestigious bloodline would hurt your reputation. Until Daddy started talking about alliance marriages that could strengthen the pack. She looked at Marcus. Did he tell you that part? How he came to me 6 months before the rejection and said we needed to reassess our situation because the Northern Pack had an unmated daughter who'd make a better political match? Marcus's expression darkened. Is this true? Darius said nothing, which was answer enough. So you rejected her to make room for a better option, Marcus said slowly, and you told me it was because she was insufficient, that the bond was weak. She was insufficient, Darius insisted. Look at her file, failed combat trials 3 times, barely adequate tracking skills, no special abilities, no, and yet here she stands, Marcus interrupted. Having survived 3 months in the Vale, where most exiles die in days. Here she stands, manifesting powers I've never seen in 50 years of alpha leadership. Here she stands, making you look like a fool. He turned back to Serena. What's your mother's family name? The question threw her. What? Your mother, Elena. What was her family name before she mated your father? Serena's mind raced. She just read it in the letters. Moon Whisper. Elena Moon Whisper. Every wolf in the clearing went still. Marcus's face went pale. Actually pale. That's not possible, he whispered. Why? What does that name mean? It means, a new voice said from the darkness, that you're the last thing any of us expected to find. Elder Rowan stepped into the clearing, moving with the careful steps of someone very old or very afraid. Maybe both. He stared at Serena like she was a ghost. The Moon Whisper line was destroyed, Rowan said. Hunted to extinction 200 years ago for being abominations, for carrying power that violated natural law. Apparently not extinct, Serena said. Since I'm standing right here, this changes everything, Rowan said to Marcus. If she's true Moon Whisper bloodline, if the gift has manifested, what gift? Darius demanded. What are you talking about? Rowan ignored him, still focused on Serena. Can you control it, the silver light? I'm learning. Show me. No. Show me, Rowan repeated, his voice taking on the command tone elders used when they expected absolute obedience. Serena smiled, cold and sharp. I don't take orders from you anymore. Remember? I was exiled. I'm not part of your pack. You have no authority over me. Serena, Marcus's voice was careful, diplomatic. I understand you're angry. You have every right to be. But this is bigger than personal grievances. If you're Moon Whisper, if you carry their gift, every pack in the region needs to know. For safety reasons. Safety, Serena repeated flatly. You mean so they can hunt me like they hunted my ancestors? So they can prepare, Marcus corrected. The Moon Whispers were dangerous, unpredictable. Their power grew with age and trauma, and it could what? Make me strong enough to challenge precious pack hierarchy? Make me powerful enough to not need your protection or your approval? Serena's hands clenched into fists, silver light flickering between her fingers. Yeah, I can see why that would terrify you. A wolf who doesn't need the pack, who can survive, thrive on her own. That threatens everything you've built. It threatens the balance, Rowan said. Wolves are pack animals. We need structure, hierarchy, community. The Moon Whispers rejected all of that, lived as individuals, answering to no one. It created chaos, violence. Or maybe, Serena said softly, they just refused to be controlled. Marcus and Rowan exchanged a long look. Some silent communication passed between them that Serena couldn't decipher. Come back to the pack, Marcus said finally. We'll reinstate you. Full membership, no conditions. We'll provide resources to help you understand and control your abilities. No. Serena, be reasonable. I said no. The silver light flared brighter, spreading up her arms. You threw me away. You called me weak and pathetic and insufficient. You exiled me to die in the Vale. And now that you've realized I'm actually valuable, now that you're scared of what I might become, you want me back? She laughed. You can all go to hell. You don't understand what you're refusing, Rowan said urgently. Without pack guidance, without control, the Moon Whisper gift will consume you. Every one of your ancestors who tried to master it alone went mad. The power grows until it burns out the mind. You need help. I need you to leave me alone. Serena started backing away toward deeper Vale territory. The circle of wolves tightened, cutting off her retreat. We can't do that, Marcus said. You're too dangerous to leave unsupervised. Then you have a problem, Serena said, because I'm not coming back. And if you try to force me, I'll fight, all of you. You can't win against a dozen wolves, Darius said, even with whatever that power is. Maybe not, but I'll hurt a lot of you before you take me down. Are you willing to lose pack members to capture one exile? She met each wolf's eyes in turn. Are you willing to die for this? Several wolves shifted their weight, uncertain. Stand down, a new voice commanded. Everyone turned. Isaac Reed walked into the clearing like he owned it, flanked by 20 free wolves, all of them armed, all of them looking ready for violence. Well, Isaac said pleasantly, this is quite the gathering. The Crown Pack Alpha himself, chasing a lone exile into neutral territory. That's not a good look, Marcus. This doesn't concern you, Reed, Marcus growled. Actually, it does. See, Serena here is living in the Vale. That makes her Vale business. And Vale business concerns me. Isaac's smile was all teeth. So I'm going to give you a choice. Leave now, peacefully, or we make this interesting. You're outnumbered, Darius said. Are we? Isaac tilted his head. Because I count 12 of you and 20 of us. And we fight dirty. He glanced at Serena. Plus whatever she can do. Those odds don't seem terrible. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You're protecting her. I'm enforcing Vale neutrality. There's a difference. Isaac moved to stand beside Serena, close enough to appear allied but not quite touching. Now, are we going to have a problem? Or are you going to respect territorial boundaries and leave? The tension was thick enough to choke on. Serena could see Marcus calculating odds, weighing the cost of fighting against the benefit of capturing her. Finally, the Alpha stepped back. We'll leave, he said, for now. But this isn't over, Serena. That power you're carrying is dangerous. If you won't accept help willingly, we'll find other ways to contain the threat. That sounds like a declaration of war, Isaac observed. It's a statement of fact. Marcus looked at Serena one last time. You think you're free. You think you've escaped, but you're just traded one prison for another. The Vale will kill you eventually, or the power will burn you out. Either way, you'll regret this choice. Maybe, Serena said, but at least it'll be my choice, not yours. Marcus gestured to his wolves. They withdrew, melting back into Crown territory, Darius casting one last unreadable look at Serena before disappearing into the trees. Silence fell after they left. Isaac turned to face Serena, his expression unreadable. Well, that was dramatic. Why did you help me? Because I don't like bullies, and because you were right earlier. You do intrigue me. He gestured to his wolves. Fall back. Give us space. The free wolves withdrew 20 yards, out of earshot, but still close enough to intervene if needed. Let me guess, Serena said tiredly. Now you want something in return for the rescue. Of course I do. I'm not a charity. Isaac crossed his arms. But I'm willing to negotiate terms you can actually live with, unlike Marcus and his offer of come back and we'll control you. What do you want? Information, training, an alliance. Isaac studied her face. Your Moonwhisper bloodline. I didn't know any of you still existed. The stories say your ancestors could do things that made alphas look like puppies. Control elements, compel obedience, kill with a touch. I can't do most of that. Yet, Isaac said, but you could learn, and when you do, you'll be the most powerful wolf in the region, maybe the country. He leaned closer. I want to be on the right side of that power when it fully manifests. Serena laughed. At least you're honest about using me. I prefer to think of it as mutually beneficial cooperation. You need allies who won't try to cage you. I need allies who can help me build something better than the corrupt pack system. We both benefit. And if I say no, Isaac shrugged. Then you're on your own. Marcus wasn't lying. The Veil is dangerous, and you've painted a target on yourself now. Every pack in the region is going to hear about this. Some will want to recruit you. Some will want to kill you. All of them will see you as a threat. He paused. But with the free wolves behind you, you have backup, protection, a place to figure out what you're becoming without constantly looking over your shoulder. Serena wanted to refuse, wanted to maintain her independence, her freedom from pack politics and power plays. But he was right. She was alone. And after tonight, that was more dangerous than ever. Temporary alliance, she said finally. I help you build your free wolves. You provide backup when I need it. But I'm not joining your pack. I don't follow orders. Fair enough. Isaac held out his hand. Deal. Serena hesitated, then shook it. The moment their hands connected, she felt something shift. Not a bond. Nothing like the mate connection she'd had with Darius. But a sense of recognition, like calling to like. Isaac felt it too. His eyes widened slightly. You have power too, Serena said slowly. Not like mine, but something. Every wolf has power, Isaac said carefully. Some of us just refuse to let the pack suppress it. He released her hand. Come on, let's get out of here before Marcus changes his mind about leaving. The Free Wolf camp was different when Serena saw it as an ally instead of an infiltrator. Isaac gave her a space in one of the better shelters. Still crude, but with a real roof and walls that blocked the wind. Food appeared, hot and plentiful. Wolves who'd ignored her during her first visit now nodded greetings as she passed. She was still an outsider, but she wasn't an enemy. Moonwhisper, a female voice said behind her. Serena turned to find a tall, scarred woman watching her with sharp green eyes. She was maybe 30, with the kind of presence that suggested leadership even without a title. I'm Kara, the woman said. Isaac's second. I run security and training. Serena, I know who you are. Everyone does now. Word travels fast in the Veil. Kara crossed her arms. I'm going to be blunt. Most of these wolves are terrified of you. The ones who aren't are plotting how to use you. Welcome to life with a reputation. Great, Serena said flatly. I'm not saying this to scare you off. I'm saying it so you'll be careful. Kara glanced around, making sure they weren't overheard. Isaac's ambitious. Brilliant, but ambitious. He sees you as a weapon he can point at the packs that wronged him. Don't let him. Why are you telling me this? You're his second. You should be loyal. I am loyal. To the Free Wolves and what we're building. Not to Isaac's ego. Kara's expression softened slightly. Look, most of us here were thrown away like you were. Exiled for stupid reasons. For being too strong or too weak or too different. We found each other and we survived. That's worth protecting. But it only works if we're fighting for the right reasons. And what are the right reasons? Freedom, safety, a place where wolves can exist without being crushed under pack hierarchy. Kara paused. Not conquest, not revenge. Isaac dances close to that line sometimes. If you're as powerful as everyone seems to think, you could push him over it, or you could pull him back. Serena studied the other woman. You really believe in this? The Free Wolves? I believe we deserve better than what the packs gave us. Don't you? Before Serena could answer, shouting erupted from the canyon entrance. Both women turned. A group of wolves burst into camp, supporting 2 injured pack members between them. Blood everywhere, claw marks, bite wounds. Isaac appeared immediately. What happened? Blackwood Patrol, one of the scouts gasped. They found our eastern supply cache, destroyed everything. Said we had 24 hours to abandon the canyon or they'd come in force and wipe us out. The camp exploded into chaos. Wolves shouting, some demanding they fight, others saying they should run, find new territory. Isaac held up his hand. Silence fell immediately. How many Blackwood wolves? He asked. Dozen in the patrol, but the scouts said they have 50 more ready to mobilize. 50 against the Free Wolves' 40. Bad odds, especially since half the Free Wolves were poorly trained and malnourished. We can't fight that many, Kara said quietly to Isaac. Not and win. We can't run either, Isaac countered. If we show weakness now, every pack in the region will target us. They'll hunt us down one by one. He looked at Serena. Unless we show them something they've never seen before. No, Serena said immediately, knowing where this was going. I'm not your weapon. I'm not asking you to fight. I'm asking you to demonstrate power, to make them think twice about attacking. Isaac's eyes burned with intensity. You glow like the moon itself, Serena. You throw wolves around like toys. If they see that, if they understand what they'd be facing, they might reconsider. Or they might decide I'm too dangerous to let live and come with 100 wolves instead of 50. Maybe. But right now we need time to prepare, to train, to get stronger. Isaac stepped closer. One demonstration. That's all I'm asking. You stand with us, you show them what Moon Whisper power looks like, and we buy ourselves breathing room. Serena looked at the gathered Free Wolves, saw the fear in their eyes, the desperation. These were wolves like her, cast out, abandoned, surviving by sheer stubbornness. One demonstration, she said. Then we're even, no more favors. Deal. They arrived at dawn. The Blackwood Patrol came in force, not 50 wolves, but at least 70. A full war party, armed and ready for violence. At the head of the group was Commander Lydia, the same wolf who'd warned Serena about increased rogue activity months ago. Her face was grim, but unsurprised when she saw Serena standing with the Free Wolves. So, Lydia called across the distance separating the 2 groups. You joined them after all. Temporary alliance, Serena called back. Doesn't matter, you're standing with rogues on our border. That makes you an enemy. Lydia's hand rested on the weapon at her belt. Last chance, Free Wolves. Abandon this canyon, leave Blackwood territory, or we end this now. Isaac stepped forward. This is Vale territory. Neutral ground. You have no authority here. We have authority wherever we say we do. That's how power works. Lydia's eyes swept the assembled Free Wolves, calculating. You're outnumbered, outmatched. You can't win this fight. Can't we? Isaac gestured, and Serena stepped forward. The moment she did, silver light began to glow beneath her skin. Not aggressive, not threatening yet. Just there. Undeniable. Impossible to ignore. The Blackwood wolves shifted nervously. Several took involuntary steps backward. Lydia's eyes widened. What in the moon's name? Her name is Serena Vale, Isaac announced. Formerly of Crown Pack, Moon Whisper bloodline, the last of a line everyone thought was extinct. He smiled. Still think we're outmatched? Lydia stared at Serena, recognition dawning in her eyes. Moon Whisper, that's not possible. They were all killed. Apparently not, Serena said. You're the one I met months ago, the exile who was still alive when she shouldn't have been. Lydia's hand tightened on her weapon. I should have killed you then. You could try now, Serena offered. The silver light grew brighter, spreading up her arms across her chest. But I'm stronger than I was then. A lot stronger. For a long moment, no one moved. 70 Blackwood wolves faced 40 Free Wolves, with Serena standing between them like a living weapon of mass destruction. Then Lydia did something unexpected. She laughed. You know what? Fine. You want this canyon? Keep it. It's worthless territory anyway. She looked at Isaac. But you're making a mistake, Reed. Aligning yourself with Moon Whisper blood. It never ends well. Ask history. History is written by the victors, Isaac said. And we plan to be victorious. We'll see. Lydia gestured to her wolves.
Pull back. Let them have their worthless rock pile.
The Blackwood wolves withdrew, though many of them kept their eyes on Serena until they disappeared into the forest. When they were gone, the free wolves erupted into celebration. They'd faced down a superior force and won without a single blow being struck. Isaac turned to Serena, grinning. See? Told you it would work. But Serena wasn't celebrating. She was staring at the forest where Lydia had disappeared, replaying the commander's words. It never ends well.
What aren't you telling me? She asked Isaac quietly. About Moonwhisper bloodline. About what happened to them. Isaac's grin faded. You really want to know? Yes, he sighed. Come on, let's talk somewhere private. They walked to the edge of the canyon, away from the celebrating wolves. The Moonwhispers weren't just powerful, Isaac said finally. They were the most powerful wolves who ever lived. They could do things that seemed impossible. Control other wolves' actions, heal mortal wounds, kill with a thought. He paused. But the power had a price. It grew with every use, and it demanded more and more from the user. Most Moonwhispers burned out before they hit 30. The ones who didn't became something else. Something that wasn't quite wolf anymore. What do you mean, something else? They lost their humanity, became creatures of pure power and instinct, destroyed everything around them. Isaac met her eyes. That's why the packs hunted them to extinction. Not out of jealousy or fear of competition, out of survival. Because a fully manifested Moonwhisper was a threat to every living thing within 100 miles. Serena's stomach dropped. You're saying I'm going to become a monster. I'm saying you might, if you're not careful. If you let the power control you instead of controlling it. Isaac's expression was serious. But you're also the first Moonwhisper in 200 years. Maybe things can be different this time. Maybe you can learn to master it without burning out. And if I can't, then I'll kill you myself. Isaac said simply, before you can hurt anyone. It's not personal. It's practical. I won't let one wolf, no matter how powerful, destroy what we're building here. The honesty was brutal, but somehow reassuring. At least she knew where she stood. Fair enough, Serena said. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sun rise over the vale. For what it's worth, Isaac said, I think you can do it. Master the power. You're stronger than your ancestors. You've already survived things that should have killed you. Or maybe I'm just stubborn. Stubbornness is underrated. Isaac smiled slightly. Come on, let's get back before they drink all the celebration rations. They started walking back toward camp. Serena was halfway there when she felt it. A pull. Deep in her chest, where the mate bond used to be, where the silver power lived. Not painful. Just present. Insistent. She stopped walking. What is it? Isaac asked. I don't know. Something's... The world tilted. Suddenly, Serena wasn't standing in the Free Wolf Canyon anymore. She was somewhere else, seen through someone else's eyes. A vast pack gathering. Hundreds of wolves assembled in some kind of amphitheater carved from natural rock. And on the central platform, surrounded by alphas from every major pack in the region, stood a woman. Silver eyes, dark hair, power radiating from her like heat from a forge. The woman turned, and her gaze locked directly on Serena across impossible distance. Hello, little wolf, the woman said, her voice echoing in Serena's mind. I've been waiting for you to wake up. Who are you? I'm what you'll become if you survive long enough. I'm the future calling to the past. The woman smiled. And I'm here to tell you that everything you've been through, the rejection, the exile, the awakening, was just the beginning. The real test is about to start. What test? The vision shattered. Serena gasped, stumbling. Isaac caught her arm, keeping her upright. Serena? What the hell just happened? Your eyes were glowing. There's another one, Serena whispered. Another Moonwhisper. She's alive, and she knows about me. Isaac's face went pale. That's not possible. The bloodline was extinct. Apparently not. Serena's hands were shaking. And she's powerful, more powerful than anything I've felt. She's calling the packs together, showing them what Moonwhisper power really looks like. Why would she do that? I don't know, but she wanted me to see it, wanted me to know she exists. Serena looked at Isaac. I think she's challenging me, or warning me, or... A howl split the air. Not from the Blackwood direction, from deeper in the vale. Then another, and another, a whole chorus of howls, all converging on the canyon from multiple directions. Kara came running. We've got movement on all sides, multiple packs. They're surrounding us. How many? Isaac demanded.
All of them, Kara said, her voice tight. Crown, Blackwood, Northern, Riverside. Even packs from territories 2 days away. They're all coming, and they're not here to talk. Isaac and Serena exchanged a look. The other Moon Whisper, Serena said. She told them about me. She's forcing them to act. Why? To see what I'll do. To test me. Serena's hands clenched into fists, silver light blazing. She's using me as bait to prove something to the packs. The howls grew closer. Within minutes, the canyon would be surrounded by hundreds of wolves, all coming to eliminate the threat they'd been told was too dangerous to live. We need to run, Kara said. Now, while we still can. There's nowhere to run, Isaac said grimly. They've cut off all the exits. Serena looked at the assembled free wolves. 40 wolves who'd survived against impossible odds, who'd built something worth protecting. 40 wolves who were about to die because of her. She couldn't let that happen. Get everyone to the back of the canyon, she said, as far from the entrance as possible. What are you going to do? Isaac asked. Serena smiled, and it was the cold, fierce expression of someone who'd stopped being afraid of what she might become. I'm going to show them what Moon Whisper power really looks like. The silver light exploded from her skin, so bright it turned the dawn into noon, so intense that every wolf in the canyon had to look away. And somewhere, miles away, the other Moon Whisper smiled. Yes, she whispered to the wind. Show them. Show them all what you are. And then come find me, little wolf. We have so much to discuss. The power didn't explode outward like before. This time, Serena pulled it inward, condensing it, shaping it into something controlled and deliberate. The silver light wrapped around her like armor, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. She could feel it responding to her intent, waiting for direction. The chaotic energy that had erupted during her escape from Crown territory was gone, replaced by something colder and infinitely more dangerous. Everyone back? She said quietly. The free wolves scrambled toward the rear of the canyon, Isaac and Kara herding the slower ones. 40 wolves pressed against the back wall, watching her with expressions ranging from awe to terror. The howls were close now, maybe a quarter-mile out and closing fast. Serena walked toward the canyon entrance alone, each step leaving faint silver footprints that faded after a few seconds. Her senses expanded outward, counting the approaching wolves. 60, 70. More arriving every minute. They'd come prepared for war. She reached the narrow mouth of the canyon and stopped, planting her feet, letting the power build. It sang in her veins, eager and wild, but she kept it leashed, controlled. The first wave appeared through the trees. Crown wolves, she recognized their scent. 24 of them in wolf form, moving in coordinated attack formation. They saw her standing alone and hesitated. Then Marcus Crown stepped through their ranks, human form, utterly calm. Stand down, Serena, he called. We don't want to hurt you, but we will if you force us to. You brought 70 wolves to not hurt me? Serena's voice carried clear and cold across the distance. That's considerate. We brought enough to contain the threat you represent. Marcus took a step forward. The other Moon Whisper made contact with every alpha in the region. Showed us what your bloodline is capable of when fully manifested. Showed us what you'll become if left unchecked. And what's that? A monster. Marcus's expression was grim. She killed 16 wolves during the demonstration. Didn't even break a sweat. Just reached out with that silver light and stopped their hearts. He paused. Then she told us about you. Said you were young, untrained, dangerous. Said we had two choices. Bring you in peacefully, or prepare for the same fate as those 16 wolves. So you chose violence. We chose survival. Marcus gestured, and the crown wolves spread out, flanking the canyon entrance. Last chance. Come with us willingly. We'll help you control it before you hurt someone. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then you're choosing death. Marcus's voice hardened. For yourself and every wolf in that canyon, because we're not leaving until this is resolved. Movement in the trees. Blackwood wolves emerging from the left. Northern pack from the right. Riverside from behind. They'd surrounded the entire canyon, cutting off every escape route. Serena counted quickly. At least 90 wolves now, probably more hidden in reserve. Behind her, she heard Isaac swearing quietly. "Any brilliant plans?" Kara called. Serena didn't answer. She was focused on the power humming beneath her skin, on the pull she felt toward something deeper and older than anything she'd touched before. The silver-eyed woman from her visions whispered in her mind, "Stop trying to control it like a wolf controls a shift. You're not shape-shifting. You're channeling the moon herself. Let her in." "That's insane," Serena muttered. "Is it? You're about to die anyway. What do you have to lose?" "Fair point." Serena closed her eyes and stopped fighting, stopped trying to control and contain and direct. Instead, she just opened. The power roared through her like a tidal wave. Her eyes snapped open, blazing pure silver. The light erupted from her skin so bright it turned the forest noon bright, so intense that every wolf within 50 yards stumbled backward, blinded. But Serena could see perfectly, could see everything. She saw the fear in Marcus's eyes as he realized this was beyond anything he'd anticipated. Saw Darius shifting to wolf form at the back of the pack, trying to hide. Saw the Blackwood commander shouting orders her wolves couldn't hear over the sound like thunder that was building in Serena's chest. She raised one hand. The ground beneath the attacking wolves' feet rippled like water. Trees bent away from the canyon entrance as if pushed by hurricane winds. The air itself seemed to solidify into a barrier between her and the assembled packs. "You want to contain me?" Serena's voice came out layered, echoing, like multiple voices speaking in unison. "You want to control what I am? What I'm becoming?" She took a step forward. The barrier moved with her, pushing the wolves back. "I am the last of a line you tried to erase. I am the daughter of the moon's first children. I am everything you feared when you hunted my ancestors to extinction." Another step. The power was intoxicating, infinite, begging to be unleashed. "And I am done being afraid of you." She swept her hand in a wide arc. The barrier exploded outward in a wave of silver force that picked up the front line of wolves and threw them backward 20 feet. They landed hard, tumbling through underbrush, yelping in surprise and pain. None of them were dead. Serena had held back at the last second, some part of her humanity refusing to cross that line. But the message was clear. The assembled pack stared at her in shock. Marcus pushed himself to his feet, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. "Fall back. Everyone fall back." "No," a new voice commanded. The silver-eyed woman stepped out of the forest like she'd been there all along, watching, waiting. She was younger than Serena expected, maybe mid-20s, with dark hair and features that looked vaguely familiar. The same power that burned in Serena radiated from her in waves, but controlled, refined, like comparing a forest fire to a forge. Every wolf in the clearing went still. "Who are you?" Marcus demanded. "I'm Celine Moonwhisper," the woman said calmly. "The last of the Eastern bloodline, and I'm here to see if my cousin is worth saving." Cousin. The word hit Serena like a physical blow. "We're related? Our grandmothers were sisters. Your line went west, mine stayed east. I've been searching for surviving family for 5 years. Celine's silver eyes studied Serena with clinical interest. "You're stronger than I expected. Raw, untrained, but strong. The power likes you." "You told them about me," Serena said, anger cutting through the shock. "You brought them here to kill me." "I brought them here to test you." Celine stepped closer, unafraid of the power still crackling around Serena. "To see if you'd collapse under pressure or rise to meet it. To see if you were worth training or if you'd become another cautionary tale. You used me as bait. Yes." No apology, no shame, just flat acknowledgement. "Because I needed to know if you could survive what's coming, if you could control the gift or if it would consume you like it consumed so many of our ancestors." "What's coming?" Celine smiled, sharp and cold. "War. The packs have been hunting us for 200 years, killing every moon whisper they could find. But we're not extinct. There are others, scattered, hidden, afraid, and I'm gathering them." She looked at the assembled alphas. "We're done hiding, done running, done pretending to be less than we are so the packs feel safe." "You're declaring war on every pack in existence?" Marcus looked incredulous. "That's suicide." "Is it?"
You brought 90 wolves to contain one untrained moon whisper, and she threw you around like puppies. Celine's voice carried across the clearing. Imagine what 10 trained moon whispers could do, or 20, or 50, working together. Dead silence. You're insane, Commander Lydia said. Even with your power, you're outnumbered thousands to one. For now, Celine turned to Serena. But numbers only matter if the other side is willing to fight. How many wolves are you willing to lose, Alphas? How many of your pack members will you sacrifice trying to take down enemies who can kill with a thought? We'll do whatever's necessary to protect our packs, Marcus said. Good answer, Celine smiled. But here's the thing. I don't actually want war. I want peace, recognition, a place at the table instead of being hunted in the shadows. She looked at each alpha in turn. I want the packs to acknowledge that moon whispers exist, that we have rights, that we're not abominations to be destroyed on sight. And if we refuse, Lydia asked, then we make you. Celine's power flared, silver light dancing across her skin. But I'm hoping we can be civilized about this. I'm proposing a summit, all major packs, all surviving moon whispers, neutral territory. We negotiate terms of coexistence. Or what? Marcus demanded. Or my cousin here and I start demonstrating exactly why you should negotiate instead of fight. Celine glanced at Serena. What do you think? Want to help me terrify some alphas into being reasonable? Serena stared at this stranger who claimed to be family, who'd manipulated her into a confrontation that could have ended with her death, who was now offering alliance wrapped in threats. Every instinct screamed not to trust her, but that same vision showed Serena the truth. Alone, she was powerful but vulnerable. Together with other moon whispers, they could change everything. I think, Serena said slowly, that you're dangerous and manipulative, and I don't trust you. Celine's smile widened. Good. Smart wolves don't trust easily. But I also think you're right about one thing. We're done hiding. Serena let her power fade slightly, no longer threatening but still present. I'm tired of being hunted, tired of being called a monster for being what I was born to be. She looked at Marcus, at Darius hovering behind him, at all the wolves who'd come to kill or capture her. I'm done apologizing for existing, she said. So here's my offer. Leave now. Go back to your territories. Think about whether you really want to go to war with us. And when you're ready to talk instead of fight, Celine knows how to find me. And if we refuse to leave, Marcus asked. Then we stop holding back, Celine said pleasantly, and you find out exactly what your grandparents were afraid of when they massacred our bloodline. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Marcus looked at the other alphas. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, he nodded. 30 days, he said. We'll organize a summit. Neutral territory. Each pack sends representatives. You bring your moon whispers. His eyes narrowed. But if you attack any pack in that time, if you give us any reason to believe you're a threat, we'll mobilize every wolf on the continent to end you. Fair enough, Celine said. And Serena stays in the Vale, Marcus added. She doesn't cross into pack territory. She doesn't contact any pack members. She's still considered exile until the summit decides otherwise. Serena bristled. I'm not... Agreed, Celine cut in, giving Serena a look that said, not now. Marcus gestured to his wolves. They withdrew slowly, keeping weapons ready, not turning their backs until they were well into the trees. The other packs followed. Within minutes, the canyon was empty, except for the free wolves, Serena, and Celine. Isaac approached cautiously. That was either brilliant or the stupidest thing I've ever witnessed. I'm not sure which. Both, Celine said cheerfully. It's usually both with me. She extended a hand. You must be Isaac Reed. I've heard about your free wolves. Interesting concept. Doomed to fail, but interesting. Charming, Isaac said flatly, ignoring the hand. Are you always this abrasive, or is today special? Always. I find it saves time. Celine turned to Serena. We need to talk. Privately. Anything you say to her, you say in front of me, Isaac said. She's under free wolf protection. Is she? Celine raised an eyebrow at Serena. Are you his wolf now? That seems like trading one pack for another. Temporary alliance, Serena said, which you just complicated significantly. I simplified it, actually. You were playing small, hiding in the Vale, helping rogues build a doomed rebellion. Celine waved dismissively.
Now you're part of something bigger, something that might actually change the world instead of just irritating it. I didn't ask to be part of your revolution.
No, but you're part of it anyway.
The moment you manifested the gift, you became a symbol. The question is whether you'll be a symbol of what moon whispers can be or what they used to be. Celine's expression softened slightly. I know I'm not what you expected. I'm pushy and manipulative, and I don't apologize for it. But I'm also your best chance at survival, at understanding what you are, at maybe, having something like a normal life again. I don't want a normal life, Serena said. That ship sailed when Darius rejected me. Good. Normal is overrated anyway. Celine smiled. So here's what happens next. You come with me for 2 weeks. I teach you to actually control the power instead of just throwing it around randomly. I introduce you to the other moon whispers I've found. And then we go to this summit together and we demand the packs give us what we deserve. Which is recognition, territory of our own, the right to exist without being hunted. Celine paused. And maybe, if we're lucky, an apology for 200 years of genocide. Serena looked at Isaac. Thoughts? I think she's going to get you killed, Isaac said honestly. But I also think she's right about one thing. Hiding in the veil isn't a long-term solution. Eventually, the packs will come for all of us. The free wolves, the moon whispers, anyone who doesn't fit their neat little hierarchy. He met Serena's eyes. If you can actually change the system, actually force them to recognize that wolves exist outside their precious pack structure, that helps everyone. So you're okay with me leaving? I'm okay with you doing whatever keeps you alive and makes you stronger. Isaac smiled slightly. Just come back. We'll need that scary glowing trick of yours when the real trouble starts. Kara stepped forward. He's right. Go. Learn. Get stronger. We'll hold things down here. Serena looked at the assembled free wolves, 40 faces watching her with hope and fear and something that might have been trust. A month ago, she'd been nothing. An exiled wolf left to die in the wilderness. Now she was... what? A symbol? A weapon? A bridge between the past and whatever came next? 2 weeks, she said to Celine. You teach me to control this power. Then I decide if I'm joining your revolution or going my own way. Fair enough. Celine looked genuinely pleased. Pack your things. We leave in an hour. She walked away, already talking to someone on a phone Serena hadn't noticed she was carrying. Isaac touched Serena's arm. Be careful, she's dangerous. So am I, Serena pointed out. That's what worries me. 2 dangerous wolves with the same power and different goals? He shook his head. That either ends in alliance or bloodshed. Not much middle ground. I'll figure it out. I know you will. You always do. Isaac surprised her by pulling her into a brief, rough hug. Don't die on me, Vale. I've gotten used to having a glowing werewolf on my side. Serena returned the embrace, then pulled away. Hold the canyon. Don't do anything stupid while I'm gone. Me? Stupid? Isaac grinned. Never. Celine's training location turned out to be an abandoned industrial complex 200 miles north, deep in unclaimed territory that was too remote for packs to care about. They traveled in a truck that appeared out of nowhere. Celine apparently had resources Serena hadn't expected. The drive was long and mostly silent. Celine focused on the road. Serena focused on not asking the 1,000 questions burning in her mind. When they finally arrived, Serena understood why Celine had chosen this place. The complex was massive. Old warehouses and factories that had been abandoned for decades, now overgrown with vegetation but still structurally sound. And scattered throughout the buildings were wolves, not regular wolves. Moon whispers. Serena counted 7 at first glance, though she suspected more were hidden. All of them carried that same silver glow beneath their skin, though with varying intensity. A young male who couldn't have been more than 16 approached first, his eyes wide with excitement. Is it true? Is she really Moon Whisper? She is, Celine said. Everyone, this is Serena Vale, Western bloodline manifested 3 months ago, still mostly untrained. She gestured around. Serena, this is what's left of our people. 7 Moon Whispers I've found over the past 5 years. 7, Serena repeated. Out of how many? Unknown. Could be dozens scattered worldwide. Could be just us. Celine's expression darkened. The purges were thorough. Most families hid their gifts so well their own children didn't know what they were. When the power manifests, most don't have anyone to teach them. They burn out or go mad or get killed by frightened packs before they can learn control. That's what you're doing here, teaching control? Teaching survival. Celine led her into the largest warehouse. Inside, the space had been converted into a training facility. Open areas for sparring, living quarters along the walls, a central fire pit for gathering. We train together, share knowledge, figure out what we can do and what the limits are. An older woman, maybe 40, stepped forward. She had silver streaking through her dark hair and scars crossing her face. "I'm Diana," she said. "I've been Moon Whisper for 20 years. Longest any of us here has survived." She studied Serena. "Celine says you threw back an entire pack assault without training. That's impressive and terrifying." "I didn't know what I was doing," Serena admitted. "I just reacted. That's how most of us start. Pure instinct." Diana exchanged a look with Celine. "But instinct without control is what killed our ancestors. We need to teach you technique, discipline, how to use the power without letting it consume you." "How long does training take?" "For most people, years. For someone as naturally strong as you?" Celine shrugged. "We'll find out. But we have 2 weeks before the summit, so we're going to cram what usually takes months into intensive daily sessions." "What if I can't learn it in time?" "Then you'll go to the summit half-trained and probably get yourself killed when the packs inevitably betray us and attack." Celine smiled cheerfully. "No pressure." Over the next 2 weeks, Serena learned what it meant to truly push her limits. Diana taught her meditation techniques that allowed her to touch the power without being overwhelmed by it. Showed her how to channel energy through specific pathways in her body, how to shape it into barriers or weapons, or healing light. The young male, his name was Marcus, ironically, demonstrated fine control, creating intricate patterns of silver light that could unlock doors or disable weapons from across a room. An older man named Thomas worked with her on combat applications, teaching her to layer the power over her physical fighting skills to create combinations that were devastatingly effective. And Celine pushed her harder than anyone. "You're strong," she said during one particularly brutal session where she'd made Serena hold a barrier against her attacks for 2 straight hours. "But strength without precision is just noise. You need to be able to dial it up or down at will. Need to be able to go from lighting a candle to leveling a building and back again without pause." "Why?" Serena gasped, sweat pouring down her face as she struggled to maintain the barrier. "When would I ever need to light a candle with moon power?" "When you need to convince someone you're harmless, right before you tear their throat out." Celine's attack intensified, testing the barrier's weak points. Control is about options, about making people underestimate you, about choosing the exact right amount of force for any situation. The barrier cracked. Serena scrambled to reinforce it, pulling more power, but Celine was already through, her hand on Serena's throat. "Dead," Celine said. "Because you panicked and overcorrected instead of adapting smoothly." "I'm trying, but trying isn't enough. The packs won't care that you're trying when they come for us. They'll just kill you." Celine released her. Again, from the top. It was brutal, exhausting. Some nights Serena collapsed into her makeshift bed, too tired to even dream. But she was getting stronger. Not just in raw power, though that was growing too, but in control, precision, understanding. By the end of the first week, she could create barriers that didn't shatter under pressure, could strike with exact force instead of overwhelming everything, could maintain the silver glow for hours without burning out. By the end of the second week, she could do things she'd thought impossible. During one session, Diana had her practice healing. The power can destroy, but it can also create, mend, restore. That's what the packs never understood about us. We weren't just weapons, we were healers too. Serena focused on a rabbit that had been injured during a hunt, channeling silver light into its broken leg. She felt the bones knit together, watched the creature hop away healthy and whole. "How does this work?" she asked, staring at her hands. "The moon's light is life," Diana explained. "It governs cycles, growth, renewal. When you channel it properly, you tap into that creative force. Most moon whispers only learn the destructive applications because that's what keeps them alive long enough to learn anything else." Can you heal people? Wolves? Within limits. Can't bring back the dead or cure old age. But injuries, sickness, poison? Yes, though it costs more energy than destruction does. Diana smiled sadly. Creating always costs more than destroying. That's true of everything, not just moon power. On the 13th day, Celine called everyone together. The summit is in 3 days, she announced. We need to talk strategy. They gathered around the central fire pit, 7 moon whispers plus Serena, and planned for what might determine the future of their entire bloodline. The Pax will come expecting to negotiate from a position of strength, Celine said. They outnumber us thousands to 1. They have resources, territory, established power structures. We have ourselves. And our abilities, Thomas pointed out, which they're terrified of. That's our leverage. Celine looked at each of them in turn. We walk in there strong, united. We show them exactly what we can do. And then we make them choose, recognize us as equals, or face war they can't win. We can't actually win a war against all the Pax, Diana said quietly. Even with our power, the numbers are too overwhelming. We don't need to win, Celine countered. We just need to make them believe we could. Make the cost of fighting high enough that negotiation looks appealing. That's a bluff, Marcus said. What happens when they call it? Then we hurt them badly enough that they don't try again. Celine's expression was cold. I'm not saying we massacre them. I'm saying we demonstrate that attacking us comes with a price they're not willing to pay. Serena listened to the discussion, feeling increasingly uneasy. This was the revolutionary talk Isaac had warned her about, the kind of thinking that led to bodies and burned territories. What if we offered something instead of just threatening? She said. Everyone turned to look at her. What do you mean? Celine asked. The Pax are afraid of us because they don't understand us. Because history says we're dangerous, destructive, impossible to control. Serena leaned forward. What if we offered to help them instead? Use our abilities to strengthen their territories, heal their wounded, help with threats they can't handle alone. You want to serve them? Thomas sounded disgusted. After everything they've done to us? I want to give them a reason to see us as allies instead of enemies. Serena looked at Celine. You said you want recognition, territory, the right to exist. That's easier to get if they think having us around benefits them. She has a point, Diana said slowly. Fear only works as a deterrent if they believe fighting is futile. But if they think they can win eventually, they'll keep trying. Alliance, though. Alliance with clear mutual benefit might actually stick. Celine was quiet for a long moment, thinking. You're suggesting we offer service in exchange for acceptance, she said finally. I'm suggesting we offer partnership in exchange for recognition as equals, Serena corrected. We help them with problems they can't solve alone. They give us territory, autonomy, the right to live without being hunted. Both sides benefit. And if they betray us, use us until we're not useful anymore, and then turn on us, then we demonstrate exactly why betraying us was a mistake. Serena met Celine's eyes. But we give them a chance to choose peace first, before jumping straight to threats and violence. Celine studied her for a long moment. You're more idealistic than I expected. I'm practical. War costs us everything, even if we win. Peace might actually let us build something that lasts. She's right, Diana said. I've been running and hiding for 20 years. I'd like to stop before I die. Slowly, the others nodded agreement. Celine sighed. Fine. We try it your way. We go to the summit with an offer of partnership instead of a declaration of war. She pointed at Serena. But if they reject it, if they attack or try to capture us, we respond with overwhelming force. Agreed? Agreed, Serena said. They spent the remaining 2 days refining their proposal, practicing their presentations, preparing for every contingency they could imagine. On the morning of the summit, Celine pulled Serena aside. I need you to know something, she said. I brought you into this partly because you're family, yes, but also because you're the youngest manifested moon whisperer I've found. The newest. The one with the least trauma and baggage from decades of hiding. Okay, that makes you the best face for what we're trying to build. You represent hope, possibility, a future where moon whispers don't have to hide or run. Celine gripped Serena's shoulder. When we walk into that summit, you're going to be the one they focus on, the one they judge us all by. Can you handle that? Serena thought about everything that had led her here. The rejection, the exile, the transformation, the fight to survive and the choice to keep fighting even when giving up would have been easier. "Yeah," she said. "I can handle it." Celine smiled. "Good. Because we're betting everything on you being right about this partnership idea. Don't make me regret trusting you." They arrived at the summit location, neutral territory halfway between major pack lands, at sunset, and found 300 wolves waiting for them. Every major pack in the region had sent representatives, alphas, elders, warriors. They'd built a massive amphitheater in a natural clearing, with the pack representatives sitting in tiered circles around a central platform. It looked less like a negotiation and more like a trial. The 8 Moon Whispers walked down the center path toward the platform, and Serena felt every eye tracking them, felt the weight of centuries of fear and hatred and suspicion. She saw Marcus Crown sitting with his pack delegation, saw Darius beside him, looking uncomfortable, saw Commander Lydia representing Blackwood, saw alphas from packs she'd never even heard of. All of them watching, waiting to see if the Moon Whispers would prove themselves worth saving or worth destroying. Celine stepped onto the platform first, then gestured for Serena to join her. The two of them stood before 300 wolves, 8 Moon Whispers behind them, and the entire future of their bloodline balanced on what happened next. "Thank you for coming," Celine said, her voice carrying clear across the amphitheater. "I know many of you would rather see us dead than standing here. I know our existence challenges everything you believe about how wolf society should work." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "But we're not here to threaten you," Celine continued. "We're not here to declare war or demand submission. We're here to offer you a choice." She looked at Serena. "My cousin will explain." Every eye shifted to Serena. She took a breath, let it out slowly, and stepped forward. "My name is Serena Vale," she said. 3 months ago, I was exiled from Crown Pack, rejected by my mate, thrown into the Vale to die because I was considered too weak, too insignificant to matter." She saw Darius flinch, saw Marcus's expression remain carefully neutral. "But I didn't die. I survived. And in surviving, I discovered what I really am, what my bloodline has always been." She let silver light flicker across her hands. "I'm Moon Whisper, the last of the Western bloodline, and I'm here to tell you that we don't have to be enemies." Silence. 300 wolves, watching, waiting. "We offer partnership," Serena said. "Our abilities in exchange for recognition. Territory in exchange for service. We help you defend your borders, heal your wounded, solve problems you can't handle alone. And in return, you give us the right to exist without being hunted, to live as equals instead of monsters." "Why should we trust you?" An alpha Serena didn't recognize called out. "Your kind has killed thousands of wolves throughout history. And your kind hunted mine to near extinction," Celine shot back. "We both have blood on our hands. The question is whether we continue that cycle or break it." Marcus stood. "What guarantee do we have that you won't use these powers against us? That you won't take what you want by force once you're established? What guarantee do we have that you won't betray us the moment we're useful?" Diana countered. "We need a treaty," Commander Lydia said, standing. "Terms, boundaries, consequences for violation on both sides." "Agreed," Celine said. "We're willing to negotiate in good faith if you are." For hours they talked, argued, negotiated. The packs wanted restrictions on Moon Whisper numbers, wanted oversight on their activities, wanted guarantees they wouldn't pose a threat. The Moon Whispers wanted territory of their own, wanted autonomy in their internal affairs, wanted the right to refuse service to packs that mistreated them. Back and forth. Give and take. Compromise hammered out word by painful word. As midnight approached, they had the skeleton of an agreement. The Moon Whispers would be recognized as an independent group with their own territory in the Vale. They would offer their services to packs who requested them, healing, defense, problem-solving, in exchange for resources and protection. Packs would agree not to hunt or persecute Moon Whispers without cause. Disputes would be mediated by a neutral council. It wasn't perfect. Both sides had given up things they wanted. But it was a start. "We need to vote," Marcus said. "All alphas present. Accept the treaty or reject it." The vote was close. Serena watched with her heart in her throat as hands raised, fell, raised again. In the end, 203 in favor, 97 against. The treaty passed. Celine grabbed Serena's hand, squeezing hard enough to hurt. They'd done it. Actually done it. The Moon Whispers had a future for the first time in 200 years. As the crowd dispersed, wolves from various packs approaching to discuss implementation details, Darius made his way to where Serena stood. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. Serena looked at him. This wolf who'd rejected her, who'd called her weak, who'd set in motion everything that had led to this moment. "No," she said. "We can't." "Serena, please. I need to say—"
"I know what you need to say. You're sorry. You made a mistake. You didn't know what I'd become." She smiled, cold and distant. "And I don't care. You had your chance to know me. You chose not to take it. That door is closed now." She walked away, leaving him standing alone in the emptying amphitheater. Isaac was waiting at the edge of the clearing with a group of free wolves. "Well?" he asked. "We have a treaty," Serena said. "The packs recognized us. We're building something new."
Isaac grinned. "Told you you'd change the world. We changed a small piece of it. The rest is still up for grabs." She looked back at the amphitheater, at the Moon Whispers gathered together for the first time in generations. "But it's a start. What happens now?" "Now?" Serena let the silver light dance across her fingers, controlled and precise and utterly hers. "Now we build. We train. We show them that Moon Whispers aren't monsters." She looked up at the full moon hanging bright and silver above them. "We show them what we really are." The treaty held for exactly 6 weeks. Serena spent that time doing what Moon Whispers had promised, helping packs with problems they couldn't solve alone. A rogue infestation threatening the northern pack's southern border, a sickness spreading through Riverside Pack that their healers couldn't identify, border disputes that needed neutral mediation. She and the other Moon Whispers became fixtures in pack territories, familiar faces instead of myths to be feared. It was working. Slowly, grudgingly, but working. Then everything went to hell. Serena was returning from a healing session with the Eastern Pack when she caught the scent. Blood, smoke, fear thick enough to taste. She ran toward the Moon Whisper settlement they'd established in the Vale, the territory the treaty had granted them. The closer she got, the worse the smell became. She burst into the clearing and stopped dead. The settlement was destroyed. Buildings burned, supplies scattered. And in the center of it all, 3 bodies. Thomas, Marcus, and a young female named Claire who'd just manifested 2 weeks ago. Dead. Throats torn out, silver blood pooled beneath them, already going dark. Serena's vision went white at the edges. Power erupted from her skin in waves, uncontrolled, responding to rage and grief in equal measure. "Serena!" Celine's voice cut through the fury. She was alive, bleeding from a dozen wounds, but alive, supporting Diana, who looked worse. "Don't. Not yet." "Who did this?" Serena's voice came out layered, echoing, barely human. "Crown Pack." Diana coughed, blood on her lips. "Marcus led the attack personally, said the treaty was a mistake, said Moon Whispers were too dangerous to be allowed to live." The world tilted sideways. Marcus Crown. The alpha who'd voted for the treaty, who'd stood in that amphitheater and agreed to peace. He'd lied, played along long enough to learn their location, their routines, their vulnerabilities, then struck while half of them were scattered across the region helping other packs. "How many did we lose?" Serena asked through clenched teeth. 3 dead, 2 captured. Celine's expression was carved from stone. "They took the youngest ones, the ones who couldn't fight back effectively yet." Serena closed her eyes, breathing hard, fighting for control. The power wanted to be unleashed, wanted to burn everything until the pain stopped. "We need to respond," one of the surviving Moon Whispers said. His name was David, mid-30s, usually calm. Now his eyes burned with the same fury Serena felt. "We need to show them what happens when they break the treaty." "We need to get our people back," Diana countered. "Attacking solves nothing if they're already dead." "They won't kill them immediately," Celine said. "Marcus is smart. He'll use them as bait. Try to draw the rest of us into Crown territory where he has the advantage." "So what do we do?" Serena demanded. Celine looked at her, and Serena saw something dangerous in her cousin's eyes. "We give him exactly what he expects. And then we give him what he deserves." They spent 3 hours planning. Not a rescue mission, a statement.
By sunset, Serena stood at the Crown Pack border with 4 other moon whispers: Celine, Diana, David, and a woman named Rachel who could manipulate shadows. 5 wolves against an entire pack. The odds should have been impossible. Remember, Celine said quietly, we're not here to kill everyone. We're here to rescue our people and demonstrate that breaking the treaty comes with consequences. What if they fight? David asked. Then we hurt them badly enough that no one else tries this. Celine's voice was cold. But we don't massacre. We're not monsters, no matter what Marcus wants people to believe. They crossed the border as a group, making no attempt at stealth. Within minutes, howls split the air. Alarms. The pack mobilizing. Good. Serena wanted them ready, wanted them to see what was coming. The first patrol met them half a mile in, 12 wolves in combat formation, weapons drawn. Stop right there, the leader shouted. You're trespassing on Crown territory. We're here for our people, Serena said. The 2 you took during your attack. Return them and we leave peacefully. Don't know what you're talking about. Liar. Celine's power flared. You have 10 seconds to tell us where they are. After that, we start getting creative. The patrol leader shifted to wolf form. His team followed suit. So be it, Celine whispered. What followed was less a fight than a demonstration. Rachel pulled shadows from the trees, wrapping them around half the patrol like ropes, immobilizing them completely. David created barriers that boxed in the others, trapping them in spaces too small to maneuver. Diana healed the one wolf who tried to fight through the barriers and injured himself, then healed him again when he stupidly tried a second time. Serena walked through the chaos untouched, silver light blazing, every wolf who came near her stopping mid-attack as if hitting an invisible wall. They left the patrol alive but unconscious, tied up with their own equipment. The second wave was larger, 30 wolves, better armed, with Darius leading them. He stopped when he saw Serena, his face going pale. Don't do this, he said. Please, we can still negotiate. Like your father negotiated? Serena's laugh was harsh. Like he agreed to a treaty and then murdered my people the moment our backs were turned? I didn't know he was planning that. I swear, Serena, I didn't. But you're here now, defending him, leading wolves to stop us from getting our people back. She stepped closer. So you're either complicit or you're a coward. Which is it, Darius? He flinched like she'd struck him. Stand aside, Celine commanded, or we go through you. Darius looked at his wolves, at the moon whispers, at Serena blazing with barely controlled power. Then he stepped aside. Let them pass, he said quietly. But the Alpha said, one of his wolves protested. I said let them pass, Darius's voice cracked like a whip. That's an order. The crown wolves parted, creating a path. Serena and the others walked through without looking back. They found Marcus at the pack center in the great hall where the rejection ceremony had taken place 4 months ago. He stood on the same platform, surrounded by 50 elite warriors, looking like he'd been expecting them. The 2 captured moon whispers, both teenagers, both terrified, were chained with silver at his feet. Well, Marcus said, you came. I wasn't sure you would. Release them, Serena said. Now. I don't think so. See, I've been thinking about our treaty, about what a mistake it was. Marcus smiled, cold and cruel. Moon whispers are too dangerous to exist alongside normal packs. Too powerful. Too unpredictable. The treaty was a temporary measure while we figured out how to eliminate you properly. You planned this from the beginning, Diana said. Of course I did. You think I'd actually agree to let abominations live in peace? Marcus laughed. The treaty gave us time to learn your weaknesses, map your settlement, identify your numbers. Now we have that information. And now we can finish what our ancestors started 200 years ago. You're declaring war, Celine said flatly. I'm declaring extermination. There's a difference. Marcus gestured, and his warriors raised weapons. Every pack alpha in the region has been informed. By sunrise, 300 wolves will descend on the Vale to wipe out every moon whisper they can find. Your little refuge will burn. Your people will die. And the world will finally be safe from your kind. Serena felt the other moon whispers tense, readying for battle. But she was focused on something else, on the patterns of fear and desperation radiating from Marcus like heat. You're terrified, she said quietly. Marcus's smile faltered. What? You're terrified of us.
Not because we're dangerous, because we're free. Serena stepped forward, silver light pulsing. We don't need packs, don't need alphas, don't need the hierarchy and structure that gives you power. We can survive alone, thrive alone. And that terrifies you because it proves everything you've built is optional. Shut up. We're not abominations, Serena continued. We're what wolves could be if you stopped crushing everyone who's different. If you stopped killing anyone who threatens your control. She looked at the assembled warriors. How many of you have watched packmates get exiled for being too weak, too strong, too different? How many of you have pretended to be less than you are so the pack would accept you? Several warriors shifted uncomfortably. She's trying to manipulate you, Marcus snapped. Don't listen. I'm telling the truth and you know it. Serena's voice carried across the hall. The pack system doesn't protect wolves, it controls them. And anyone who can exist outside that control has to be destroyed because they prove the system is broken. Enough! Marcus's power flared, alpha command rolling through the hall. Kill them, all of them! The warriors hesitated. Only for a second, but they hesitated. That was all the opening the Moon Whispers needed. The fight that followed would be talked about for generations. Rachel wrapped half the hall in shadows so thick the crown wolves couldn't see their own hands. David created barriers that split enemy forces, preventing them from coordinating. Diana moved through the chaos, healing any Moon Whisper who took damage, making them nearly impossible to put down. Celine fought with surgical precision, her power lashing out like silver whips that disarmed and disabled without killing. And Serena was the storm at the center of everything. She moved through this hall like moonlight given form, her power responding to instinct and need rather than conscious thought. Warriors who attacked her found themselves thrown backward. Weapons that came too close simply stopped, frozen in mid-swing. The silver chains holding the captured Moon Whispers shattered under her touch. She grabbed the two teenagers, pulling them behind her. Get to the door. Run if you have to. They ran. Marcus roared in fury, shifting to his massive alpha wolf form. He was bigger than any normal wolf, bred for power over generations of careful bloodline management. He lunged at Serena with jaws that could crush bone. Serena caught him mid-leap. Her hands closed around his throat, silver light blazing so bright the entire hall went white. Marcus thrashed, trying to break free, but her grip was iron. I could kill you right now, she said quietly, her voice somehow audible over the chaos. Could stop your heart with a thought, could burn you from the inside out, could make you suffer the way you made my people suffer. Marcus's eyes were wide with terror. But I won't, Serena continued, because I'm not a monster. I'm not what you tried to make me. She released him, letting him collapse to the floor. I'm something you're too broken to understand. She stepped back, looking at the assembled warriors. Most had stopped fighting, just watching in shock. The treaty is over, Serena announced. Not because we broke it, because you did. But we're not declaring war. We're declaring independence. She let her power pulse through the hall, making every wolf feel it. The Moon Whispers don't need pack recognition. Don't need your permission to exist. We're done asking for scraps from tables we were never allowed to sit at. What are you saying? Celine asked quietly. I'm saying we leave, all of us. We find territory no pack claims, and we build something new. Something that doesn't require us to prove we're not monsters every single day. Serena looked at her cousin. No more treaties, no more negotiating with wolves who will never see us as equals. We just go. Silence fell across the hall. Marcus pushed himself to his feet, blood dripping from his throat. You can't survive alone. No wolf can. Normal wolves can't. But we're not normal, remember? You kept telling us that. Serena smiled coldly. So we'll prove you right. We'll survive without you. And maybe, when you see what we build, you'll realize what you threw away. She walked toward the exit. The other Moon Whispers fell in behind her. If you leave Crown territory, you're declaring yourself enemies of every pack, Marcus shouted after them. No, Serena said without looking back. We're declaring ourselves free. There's a difference. They walked out of the Great Hall, through the packlands, across the border into the Vale. No one tried to stop them. Word spread fast. By the next day, every pack in the region knew what had happened. Some called for immediate retaliation. Others argued for caution. The Moon Whispers had demonstrated restraint even when provoked, had left Marcus alive when they could have killed him. The free wolves were waiting when Serena returned to the destroyed settlement. Isaac took one look at her face and nodded. So, war? Independence, Serena corrected. We're leaving. Where? North. There's unclaimed territory beyond Packlands. Wild country no one wants because it's too harsh, too remote. She looked at the ruins of what was supposed to be their safe haven. We'll claim it. Build something new, something that doesn't require permission from alphas who hate us.
That's insane, Kara said.
That territory is brutal. No infrastructure, no support systems, barely any prey. But no pack patrols, no treaties to be broken. No one telling us what we can and can't be. Serena met Isaac's eyes. I know what I'm asking. It's not going to be easy. A lot of wolves won't make it. When has anything we've done been easy? Isaac smiled slightly. You're talking about building a place where wolves can exist without pack hierarchy, without having to bow to alphas or follow rules designed to keep us weak. That's what the free wolves have always wanted. Then come with us. Isaac looked at his wolves. Show of hands. Who wants to follow a glowing werewolf into the frozen north to build an impossible dream? Every hand went up. Looks like you've got yourself an army, Isaac said, or at least a really determined group of misfits. Over the next week, more wolves arrived. Exiles who'd heard what happened and wanted to be part of something different. Moon whispers Celine had contacted over the years, scattered across continents. Even a few pack wolves who quietly left their territories to join something they believed in more than tradition. By the time they departed, the group numbered over 100. The journey north was brutal, exactly as hard as everyone had predicted. The territory was mountainous, frozen, hostile to life. They lost 7 wolves in the first month. Accidents, exposure, one rogue attack they hadn't seen coming, but they also found something. Each other. Without pack hierarchy dictating worth, wolves discovered they could contribute in ways they'd never been allowed to before. The ones bad at fighting turned out to be brilliant at engineering shelter systems. The ones too weak for patrols became expert scouts who could move silently through terrain others couldn't navigate. Serena worked alongside everyone else, using her power not to dominate but to help. She heated rocks to warm shelters during brutal cold snaps, healed injuries that would have been fatal, used her silver light to guide hunters through snowstorms back to camp. 3 months in, they'd established the bones of a settlement. Crude, rough, but theirs. 6 months in, it looked like a real community. Buildings, gardens, infrastructure. A year in, it looked like home. They called it Silver Fall, named for the waterfall near the main settlement that seemed to glow silver under moonlight. It wasn't a pack, wasn't traditional in any way. It was better. They governed by council instead of alpha decree, made decisions collectively, valued contribution over bloodline or combat ability, accepted wolves regardless of where they came from or what they could do, as long as they contributed honestly. It worked. Slowly, imperfectly, but it worked. Word spread. More exiles arrived. More wolves who didn't fit pack molds. Even a few humans who'd discovered wolf communities and wanted to be part of something different. 2 years after leaving Crown territory, Silver Fall had over 300 residents. It was still small compared to major packs, but it was growing. And the packs noticed. Marcus tried to ignore them at first. Pretended Silver Fall didn't exist, but other alphas were less certain. Some sent scouts to see what the Moon Whispers were building. A few even sent quiet messages asking if alliance was possible. Serena refused them all. We're not interested in treaties or alliances. We're interested in being left alone. But isolation only lasted so long. The challenge came in spring of their 3rd year. A massive rogue pack, over 200 strong, swept down from the far north, displacing everything in their path. They hit the northern pack first, overwhelming their defenses, killing dozens. The northern pack called for help from neighboring territories, and Silverfall received a message delivered by a scared teenager who'd run 20 miles through dangerous terrain. Please, they're killing everyone. We need help. Anyone's help. Serena stood in the council chamber they'd built, looking at the other leaders, Isaac, Celine, Diana, Kara. A dozen others who'd proven themselves invaluable. We said we were done with packs, she said. Done helping wolves who'd never see us as equals. We also said we'd build something better, Diana countered. Something that valued life over politics. How is ignoring a massacre consistent with that? They exiled you, Kara pointed out to Serena. Threw you away. Why should we risk our people to save theirs? Because we're better than they are, Serena said quietly. That's the whole point, isn't it? We're building something that doesn't reduce wolves to what they can offer us. That values life. All life. Even the lives of wolves who hate us. Silence filled the chamber. She's right, Isaac said finally. If we let them die when we could help, we're no better than the packs that exiled us. We could lose people, someone warned. We could, Serena agreed. But that's the cost of actually being better, of meaning it when we say every life matters. The vote was close, but in the end, they agreed to help. Silverfall mobilized 50 wolves, moon whispers, free wolves, exiles, volunteers. They marched south and hit the rogue pack like a silver hammer. The battle lasted 3 hours. Brutal, chaotic, desperate. Serena moved through it using everything she'd learned, not overwhelming force, precise application of power where it was needed most, barriers to protect wounded northern pack wolves, healing light to keep fighters on their feet, targeted strikes that disabled enemies without killing them when possible. The Silverfall forces fought like nothing the rogues had encountered, coordinated but flexible, powerful but controlled. They didn't just attack, they adapted. When it was over, the rogue pack retreated, their numbers cut in half, their leader dead at Celine's hands. The northern pack was saved. Alpha Gregory of the northern pack found Serena afterward, covered in blood and exhaustion. You came, he said simply. Even after everything, you came. We came because it was right, Serena said, not because we owe you anything. I know. Gregory looked at his devastated territory. I was one of the Alphas who voted against your treaty, who called Moon Whispers abominations, who agreed with Marcus that you were too dangerous to exist. I remember. I was wrong. The admission seemed to cost him physically. About everything. About what you are. About what you'd become. About whether wolves could exist outside pack structure. He met her eyes. You built something we said was impossible, and then you saved us even though we didn't deserve it. Everyone deserves help when they're dying, Serena said. That's not pack politics, that's just being decent. Gregory was quiet for a long moment. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you regret it? Any of it? The rejection, the exile, everything that led here? Serena thought about that. About the girl she'd been 4 years ago, weak, desperate, trying so hard to fit into a world that would never accept her. About the woman she'd become, powerful, independent, building a future on her own terms. No, she said finally. I don't regret it. It hurt. Nearly killed me. But it also freed me to become who I actually am instead of who they needed me to be. She smiled slightly. Best thing Darius ever did for me was throw me away. Turns out I didn't need him. Didn't need any of them. Gregory nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For my part in that. For all of it. Apology accepted. Serena turned to leave. Rebuild your pack, Gregory. Treat your wolves better than you treated us. Maybe next time someone different shows up, you won't try to destroy them. She walked back toward her wolves, toward Silverfall, toward home. The news of what happened spread faster than wildfire. Silverfall, the settlement of exiles and abominations, had saved a major pack when no one else could, had demonstrated power tempered with mercy, strength balanced with compassion. Requests started coming in. Not demands, not orders. Requests. Could Silverfall help with a border dispute? Could Moon Whispers heal a sickness spreading through pack territory? Could the Silverfall Council mediate a conflict before it turned violent? Serena and her council considered each request carefully. Some they accepted. Some they refused, usually when the requesting pack had a history of cruelty to exiles or minorities. They helped on their terms, as equals, never as servants. 5 years after the exile, Serena stood on a cliff overlooking Silverfall. The settlement had grown into something approaching a city. 500 wolves now, with more arriving every month. Buildings of stone and wood climbing the mountainside, gardens and infrastructure. A school where young wolves learn to control their abilities regardless of bloodline.
a healing center run by Diana, a training facility run by Kara and Isaac. It was everything she'd dreamed and nothing she'd planned. Impressive, isn't it? Serena turned. Darius stood a few feet away, looking nervous and out of place in his expensive pack clothes. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I came to see you. I've been trying to reach you for months, but you never answer." He took a tentative step closer. "I wanted to apologize. Properly. For everything." "You're 5 years too late." "I know, but I need to say it anyway." Darius looked at the settlement below. "I was wrong. About you. About what rejection would do to you. I thought I was cutting loose someone weak, someone who'd never amount to anything without pack protection. And instead you built this. An entire community of wolves who chose to follow you, who believe in you, who die for what you've created here." He laughed, the sound bitter. "You became exactly what I claimed I needed, strong, independent, powerful. And I threw you away before you could show me." "Yes," Serena said simply. "You did." "Can you forgive me?" Serena looked at him, really looked, saw the regret, the genuine pain, the realization of what he'd lost, and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just indifference. "I forgave you years ago," she said. "Not because you deserved it, but because holding on to that anger was exhausting. It was easier to let it go and focus on building something better." Hope flickered in Darius's eyes. "Does that mean—" "It means I forgive you. Not that I want anything to do with you." She smiled slightly. "You were a chapter in my life, Darius. An important one, because it pushed me to become who I am. But the chapter's over. I've moved on." "To what?" "To this," Serena gestured at Silverfall. "To building a place where wolves can exist without being crushed into molds that don't fit them. Where strength means more than combat ability and worth isn't determined by bloodline. Where wolves who don't fit anywhere else can find home. And the packs? What about them? They can keep their territories and their hierarchies and their traditions. We're not interested in changing them." Serena's expression hardened slightly. "But they don't get to tell us how to live anymore. Don't get to exile wolves for being different and then expect those wolves to come crawling back." Darius was quiet for a long moment. "Alpha Marcus died last month, heart attack. I heard. I'm Alpha now, of Crown Pack." He met her eyes. "And I want to make things right. Want to offer a real treaty. Recognition of Silverfall as an independent territory, trade agreements, mutual defense pact if you want it." "Why?" "Because you were right. The old ways are broken. Exiling anyone who doesn't fit, crushing anyone who stands out, it's destroying us. We're losing our best wolves because we can't accept that different doesn't mean wrong." Darius smiled sadly. "You proved that. Built something stronger than any pack I've seen because you accepted everyone instead of just the ones who fit. And you think a treaty fixes everything, makes us forget 5 years of packs trying to destroy us? No, but it's a start." Darius held out his hand. "I'm not asking you to come back. I'm asking you to help me make Crown Pack better. To teach us what you learned out here. To maybe, someday, build a world where wolves like you don't have to flee to the frozen north to be safe." Serena looked at his offered hand. Part of her wanted to refuse. To tell him to handle his own problems. To let Crown Pack collapse under the weight of its own corruption. But that wasn't who she was anymore. Wasn't who she'd become. "We'll consider a treaty," she said, not taking his hand. "But on our terms. Silverfall remains fully independent. We help when we choose to, not when you order us. And if you or any other pack violates our autonomy, we disappear back into the mountains, and you never find us again." "Deal." "I'm not finished." Serena's voice hardened. "You also stop exiling wolves for being different. Stop crushing anyone who doesn't fit your narrow definition of acceptable. Stop treating weakness like a crime and strength like a threat. Actually become the pack you claim to be." "That's asking a lot." "It's asking you to be decent. If that's too much, then we have nothing to discuss." Darius was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Okay, I'll try. Can't promise overnight change, but I'll try. Then we'll talk. Not now. Not soon. But eventually." Serena gestured toward the path leading away from the cliff. "You should go.
You're not welcome in Silverfall yet. Maybe someday, if you actually change things, but not today." Darius left without argument. Serena watched him disappear down the trail, then turned back to the settlement. Celine had appeared at some point, watching from the shadows. "You could have made him grovel more," she observed. "What would be the point? He already knows what he lost." Serena smiled slightly. "Besides, I meant what I said. I'm not angry anymore. Just free." "Free," Celine repeated. "That's a good word for it." She moved to stand beside Serena, looking out over Silverfall. "We did it. Actually did it. Built something that works." "We did," Serena agreed. "Not perfect. Still rough around the edges, but ours." They stood in comfortable silence, watching their people move through the settlement below. Wolves laughing, working, living without fear of rejection or exile. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if he hadn't rejected you?" Celine asked quietly. "If you'd stayed in Crown Pack, never manifested, lived that quiet, normal life your mother wanted for you?" Serena thought about that, about the girl who'd wanted nothing more than to be accepted, who'd have given anything to fit in. "Sometimes," she admitted. "And then I look at this and I'm grateful he was too blind to see what I could be, because staying would have meant spending my whole life trying to be smaller, quieter, less, trying to fit into a space that was never designed for me. And now? Now I don't fit into anyone's space. I make my own." Serena turned to her cousin. "We both do. All of us do. That's the whole point." Celine smiled. "I'm glad I found you. Glad you survived long enough to help build this." "Me too." They walked back toward the settlement together as the sun set, painting Silverfall in shades of gold and silver. Behind them, the moon rose, full and bright and constant, watching over the wolves who'd been rejected, exiled, and thrown away. The wolves who'd survived anyway, who'd built something better than anything that had come before, who'd proven that sometimes the best revenge wasn't destruction. It was becoming so undeniably powerful, so impossibly free, that the people who'd thrown you away spent the rest of their lives regretting it. Serena had been called weak, insufficient, a mistake. She'd proven them wrong in every way that mattered, not by destroying them, not by forcing them to acknowledge her, but by building a life so full, so rich, so completely hers, that their opinions stopped mattering entirely. She was the wolf they'd rejected, the exile who'd survived, the queen of a kingdom they'd never understand, and she'd never been stronger. As she walked through Silverfall's streets, wolves nodded greetings. Young moon whispers practicing their gifts waved. Isaac called out something sarcastic from across the square that made her laugh. This was home. These were her people. Not because they'd been assigned to her by blood or bond, but because they'd chosen each other, built something together, survived together. That night, Serena stood in the council chamber addressing the assembled leaders. "We've had requests from 3 more packs this week," she said. "Northern wants help with rogue activity. Riverside is dealing with a sickness. Blackwood wants mediation for an internal dispute." "Do we help?" Isaac asked. "We help," Serena said. "On our terms? For our reasons. Not because we owe them, but because we're better than they are. Because that's what being better actually means." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. "What about Crown?" Kara asked. "Darius was here today. He'll be back." "Let him come. Let all of them come." Serena looked around at her council. "We're not hiding anymore. Not apologizing. Not asking permission. We exist. We thrive. And if they want to be part of what we're building, they do it as equals or not at all." "And if they try to destroy us again?" someone asked. Serena smiled, silver light dancing across her fingertips. "Then they'll discover exactly why our ancestors were feared, and why we're even more dangerous than they were." "Because we're organized," Diana guessed. "Because we choose mercy," Serena corrected. "And choice means we can also choose not to. That's what makes us powerful. Not the gifts, not the bloodline. The choice to be better when we could easily be worse." She looked around the chamber at wolves from a dozen different backgrounds. Exiles, outcasts, moon whispers, humans, all of them building something that shouldn't work according to every rule the packs had established. All of them proving those rules were broken. "We're going to keep growing," Serena said. "Keep building. keep accepting wolves who don't fit anywhere else. And eventually the packs will have to choose, adapt or become irrelevant. That's ambitious, Celine observed. It's necessary. Serena's voice was quiet but firm. Because every day we exist, we prove their system is optional, that wolves can thrive without alpha hierarchies and bloodline obsessions and exile as punishment for being different. We're not just surviving anymore. We're thriving, and that's the most dangerous thing we could possibly be. The council meeting ended. Wolves dispersed to their homes, their families, their lives. Serena walked to the edge of the settlement alone, looking out at the mountains that had seemed so hostile 3 years ago. They still were hostile, still brutal and unforgiving, but they were home. Behind her, Silverfall glowed with warm light. Laughter drifted on the wind. Somewhere, someone was singing. Serena closed her eyes and felt the moon's light on her face, felt the power humming beneath her skin, no longer wild and desperate, but controlled and purposeful, felt the weight of everyone who depended on her, who'd chosen to follow her, who believed in what they were building together. It should have felt crushing. Instead, it felt like wings. She'd been rejected, exiled, told she was worthless, and she'd used that pain to forge something unbreakable. Not revenge, not destruction, something better. Proof that the wolves they threw away were often the ones who'd changed the world. Serena opened her eyes and smiled at the moon, full and bright and constant above. "Thank you," she whispered to Darius, wherever he was, to Marcus, rotting in his grave, to every wolf who'd told her she was insufficient. "Thank you for being too blind to see what I could become. Thank you for throwing me away, because you freed me to be extraordinary." The moon offered no answer. It never did. But Serena didn't need answers anymore. She had something better. She had herself, her people, her home. She had become the storm they'd never seen coming, the queen they would never deserve. And she'd never been more free.